Hello and welcome back to the Spike Colony podcast. We had a little bit of a hiatus. I went to beautiful Amsterdam, Ghent, and London. And Mike, what was up with you?
I've been, I've been laid up for a while. Pretty bad-ish.
Right, but
Yeah.
The Premodern grind doesn't stop because LobsterCon is a mere 7 + 1, 8 days away.
I thought I was going to have to cancel my LobsterCon trip, but it doesn't look like I am. So
Well, that works out. That works out for the better.
I was going to beg Nick Mayo. I'm like, I'm going to have to miss 2 years in a row after having secured tickets for both years. Can I get a dispensation backdoor link for next year? But it's not gonna be necessary. I think I'm going to be able to make it to Boston in 8 days.
So. You never need a backdoor link when you've got your squad of people on the page ready to refresh and register. But
I don't know, man. What if a server crashes? What if 90 seconds isn't enough time?
That's true. In any case, we love to talk about every single deck in the format on this podcast. It is generally quite popular content, and no better time than a week before LobsterCon to help people through their decision making on choosing a deck for the tournament, to do a good old fashioned case for every deck in the format plus tier list. So we'll do that.
And everything is contextually driven, right? Like, for sake of argument, if people only played Sly, right, then
Like
Dreadnought
yourself, yeah.
might be the best deck. It is a good deck, right? But if people only played Moneyball, then Dreadnought might not be a very good deck.
Oh, well, I mean, I would talk about the meta realistically. I wouldn't talk about that's just what are you going to do with that information? Of course, if everybody plays that matchup, you're going to
give me, sorry, one
The
second.
context is LobsterCon.
Okay, for LobsterCon, 1 sec.
The context is LobsterCon. We are thinking about how good a deck is, the case for the deck, right? You're just making a case for why you would pick that deck for LobsterCon, and of course that comes with it the case against that deck. And we're just going to talk about decks, the format.
How many decks can go in the S tier?
I mean, it's going to be anchored probably by where we place other decks.
No, I mean, how many could you fit? Like, I want to put 20 decks in the S tier. They're all good. Everyone tried hard.
It would, like I said, you just calibrate. You calibrate as we go. We're not going to be too scientific about it. I mean, I don't really think about SA. Like, you can call SABC 1, 2, 3, 4 or 0, 1, 2, 3. It just doesn't matter to me. Like, some decks are going to be closer to the others, and then the worst deck in S tier is going to be meaningfully better than the best deck than A tier, right? So everything within a tier is close. Everything without a tier, we would say is not close. And we'll just kind of go from there.
Can we just be I don't rank bad decks?
Well, we can also just move stuff around as we go, right? We can demote something or promote something if we're looking at the chart and we're like, okay, the chart's ridiculous, right? But in any case, we can figure it out as we go. We don't have to be too crazy about it. This is a Math is Dead podcast after all. And this is a Vibes podcast. And I had a thing I added to Premodern. I added to spikecolony.com/tier list, or tier-list. I think it's tier list, one word. Spikecolony.com/tier list. I added a little how consistent a deck is and how powerful a deck is. And I think I added one more thing, but it was consistency and power is the two things, because we were kind of getting into the weeds of one deck is more powerful than another just because replenishing all your enchantments in play is more powerful than Dreadnought, right? But it's Replenish is by most counts not a better deck than Dreadnought because of its power ceiling. It's just not as consistent, and you've pointed out, the spells cost more than one or zero.
They're pretty equivalent, I think. I don't think Dreadnought is so much better than Replenish, but I think that there's a difference between 1 casting cost spells and 4 casting cost spells, or 8 casting cost spells, as the case may be.
Yeah, in an attempt to sort of define the thing that's happening between comparing a deck like Devourer combo, which kills your opponent immediately, versus Enchantress, which kills your opponent slowly. We can like at least call out,
let's just start doing
this sort of je ne sais quoi. Well, I just wanted to point out that consistency, I think, is something that goes a little bit underrated when people talk about decks, because they always assume that the deck is doing its thing. And it's like the difference between how often a deck like Burn or Dreadnought gets to do its thing versus, Dreadnought or Terrageddon or Moneyball Black is like, very, very vast.
I think it's like working at Netflix. Here's the all-in offer. Yes, I understand these are all the different things that make you a special case. This is the all-in offer, and I think we'll take those into consideration and we can fight about it.
Well, I think we should fight. I think we should just like start off hot and put Moneyball Black somewhere.
Oh, no. I think we should start off with Dreadnought and then.
Oh yeah, we'll start off with Dreadnought. Dreadnought is S tier.
S tier, like I think slightly under the ceiling of S tier. I don't think it is the ceiling of S tier. I think it is slightly under.
I think Dreadnought is the absolute best deck in the format. I think that the other decks, really like you can argue about how close a deck like Replenish or Enchantress might be, but I think that this is the reason why I thought consistency was so important to talk about, which is just that every imaginable scenario that Dreadnought loses, Dreadnought is going to crack like 20% of the time.
Is there some, but I think that there's also like counter consistency, which is like, it's been so long since we've done a podcast episode. A big part of that was my fault, but when we talked about Medvedev, for example, and you're like, all right, this deck is so extreme now, right? It's got all these pyrostatic pillars. It has no cards for the mirror match. We haven't seen a lava dart in forever, right? Like, and that's just because there's nothing on the radar. But versus the fact that everyone knows that Dreadnought is potentially the apex of the format. Like everybody, what I have a thing, which is just, I think it is functionally true and also not true at all, which is like Dreadnought has no good matchups. Dreadnought wins the most, it has no good match. Like every deck is like, oh, I could beat Dreadnought. This is what I would do. And you can't disagree with them. And when you're the Dreadnought player, like, damn if they don't really have a Duress Gerard's Verdict, Chainer's Edict, your Dreadnought, and you're like, can't believe I just lost to a sequence of Duress Gerard's Verdict, Chainer's Edict, and I did. Like, so I feel like
but that's why it's important to zoom out though, because all of the sequences to beat Dreadnought involve like multiple sideboard cards or like multiple, like a main deck that's constructed in a way that is like extremely hateful to Dreadnought, right? Like, we've talked about Enchantress, right? This was like a deck that ended up having a ridiculous amount of sideboard cards to the matchup, which was like a big contributor to Enchantress's success. It had to go so far as to add Gaia's Blessing to the sideboard because
I love it.
You needed to not get got by Brain Freeze, right?
Yeah.
Because even after you played your 4 Seal of Cleansing, like 4 whatever, you have Carpet of Flowers to stop them from paralyzing you have Exalted Storm to stop them from countering you, etc., etc., etc. You're like, oh well, I still need Brain Freeze or I still need Gaia's Blessing because I might get Brain Freeze or I might have my stuff countered and then I have to refresh it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the difference between a deck like Dreadnought and Enchantress and decks that are like pretenders to the throne, that their plan A is so powerful that they can willy-nilly devote so many sideboard cards to the other good deck because, like there's like, whatever, I'll play like one Solitary Confinement for burn. It's probably going to be enough.
Well, and the cards that you put in your deck are incredible cards, right? So the amount of work that Dreadnought does it's like, okay, for the first, the drag that Dreadnought carries is that it has to play 12 cards, and they're not like, they're all, by all means, are not like spectacular cards. But the payoff is pretty good. You get a 12 trample for 2 mana. After that, like Portent, Gush, Foil, Counterspell, like these are all just cards that everybody wants to put in their deck that can cast those cards. Yeah, it's not like anti-Dreadnought. You're like, oh, like anti-Dreadnought cards are stuff like Crumble and Annul, right? Which is like cards that have to live in your sideboard. The only like
good cards are highly mana efficient. They generate card advantage,
right? But they're not cards that you see that often. Like at the end of the day, Null is in this weird point of like, okay, well, you kind of want to play it in these blue anti-Dreadnought decks, but like, I don't know, if you like sort of scan this metagame right now, there's not a lot of decks that can play a Null. There's not a lot of decks that want to play Crumble, because Dreadnought is like its own artifact, and like all
that Dreadnought itself can play 3 or 4 Null every time. That is a deck that plays a Null.
Okay, so in your analysis, do you think that the presence of Dreadnought playing a Null makes Dreadnought less viable as a deck?
No, I'm just addressing that you're just like, there's not that many decks that play an all, and I'm like,
yeah, obviously that includes non-Dreadnought decks. When we're talking about Dreadnought, like we're talking about
the next deck.
Like, I want to get something very clear, right? Which is that the mirror match is 50% in any like idealized
Lots
universe.
of good decks. I mean, okay, lots of decks, whether they're good decks or not, can play an all. That's all.
I don't know. I think if you scan this, you can actually call this out really quickly, right? It's that Standstill, Replenish can barely play a null because Replenish has to, Replenish is incentivized to play Seal Cleansing because its interaction with Replenish. Stasis is barely a deck and it can play it, and then that is the end of the list, right? If you look, I mean, Grotog
could play a null. Standstill plays a null.
Okay.
Speaking
from somebody who actually like builds and plays a lot of these decks, they don't want to play a null just for Dreadnought, because a null is like good against Dreadnought. It's weird against Survival of the Fittest. It's relevant against Pernicious Deed, which nobody plays anymore. Anyways, my point is,
Psychotog
Mike,
plays like
Mike, what's a more flexible deck? What's a more flexible card? Counterspell or a null?
It's just ridiculous to say that people don't play a null.
If I'm comparing like this is the overarching thesis, right? The main deck cards in Stiflenought are better than the sideboard cards that you use to beat Stiflenought. Okay, because Stiflenought gets to be the first act, it gets to be proactive, and it gets to be flexible. And the cards that it uses function in two ways. So much the way that Burn has like multiple like Bolt's face, but Bolt can also be Swords of Plowshares. Dreadnought gets to use Counterspell as, you know, both an intervene to protect Dreadnought, or a way to stop your opponent from casting Opalescence or Survival of the Fittest. A null doesn't have that flexibility. Crumble doesn't have that flexibility. Even Powder Keg is like a weirdly, like, you can think of all the uses, but there's also a lot of decks that are like indifferent or worse to Powder Keg because the card is so slow.
Well, so nobody's arguing that answer cards are better than threat cards. I'm just saying that there are lots of decks that can play these cards.
My thesis is that answer cards are worse than threat cards, except for Dreadnought gets to play a bunch of answer cards in the form of counterspells, and that's what makes Dreadnought a good resilient deck. Oh, resiliency is my third thing.
The whole point of Premodern is the answer cards are so good, right? Like, that's the reason any of us play Premodern.
Right, but
the sideboard cards are so good.
We take that for granted, and that puts us into this like the sense of self-confidence, like the same self-confidence that people had in 2024 when Brian Selden shows up to, LobsterCon, and people think that they have a good Dreadnought matchup. And like, the fact of the matter is, like, even absent Parallax Tide, obviously Parallax Tide did a lot to help very specific matchups, but even absent Parallax Tide, you would have a plan that was like highly effective against a deck like Grotog, right? You'd be like, oh, I've got Meddling Mages, Counterspells, and Disenchants. What more can I want?
If you just watch the top 8, I mean, I don't want to talk about a deck and Flash format that doesn't exist anymore, but like, he would not have won the top 8 if he didn't have the Parallax Tide transformation. Like, he
that's
literally
not my point. That's not my point. My point is that like the answer cards that people think can answer Dreadnought don't answer it at a sufficient percent of the time, and I think that's just borne out in the fact that Dreadnought's still at the top of the metagame. Dreadnought sits at the top of the metagame. It continues to like, top 8 every pre-modern challenge on Magic Online. It'll put like 2 or 3 copies in. Maybe there'll be a day where like everybody's like, oh, I'm gonna play Moneyball Black, and like that's the one or two times that Dreadnought misses top 8. But it says a lot about a deck that everybody knows it's the best deck, and it continues to perform. Hodge has this like, we get the top 32 data. So, we get the top 32 data, so you can figure out if a deck made top 8 or not made top 8. And Dreadnought still converts to top 8 higher than its population expectancy, even though every single person knows that it's a good deck. Like, this is what to me makes Dreadnought S tier, which is that everybody knows about it.
Nobody's arguing it's not S tier. I don't know what like it's a very good deck.
Yeah, that's my point. And my point is that part of the reason for that is that like people have a plan for it, and it still wins tournament. Like, look at Kaplan at Bearded. Like, people have all sorts of sideboard cards for Dreadnought, and Kaplan still takes down,
everything I've read says Replenish converts better than Dreadnought. So like, I don't it literally converts better than Dreadnought mathematically. I know that math is dead, but you can't just like pretend Dreadnought converts better. It doesn't. Right?
I didn't say Dreadnought converts better than like Replenish doesn't have the same target on its back. Everybody knows Dreadnought is the best deck. If everybody knew that Replenish was the best deck and Replenish was played at a higher frequency, then maybe you might not see that conversion rate. I'm saying Dreadnought. I'm not saying Dreadnought has the best conversion rate out of every deck. I'm saying Dreadnought still has a higher than expected conversion rate, despite the fact that everybody knows about it. Despite the fact that quote unquote answers are better than answers in Premodern are so efficient or powerful.
So what are you trying to get buy-in on? No one's arguing that Dreadnought is not near the top of the S tier. If
I'm just addressing your point. You're saying that Replenish converts better. My point isn't that Replenish.
Replenish converts better, and people can play and all. Those are two true statements,
right? And those are things that at the end of the day, like aren't happening at the same like my point is like after all the dust settles and you just like look at what's happening in the format, people are playing Dreadnought and they're winning, right? So whatever is happening, whatever like metagame correctional forces, whatever thing that you believe, if you believe that people should play more null, if you believe that people should be playing Replenish instead of Dreadnought, that's not what's happening. People continue to play Dreadnought and they're not being punished for it. And so one of the points that I would make is that I would actually make us like I would say that there's a case for Dreadnought standing alone in S tier because of this. Because if there's a deck and you know that it's good and everyone else knows that it's good and you play it and you still win, then that's like that's symptomatic of a deck standing alone.
I would literally, I don't know what you would want to collateralize on this. I would gamble right now Dreadnought is not the best performing deck at LobsterCon. If that's however you want to slice it, it's not going to convert the best. It's not going to win in the top 8 at a higher rate than something else, which we don't know what it is, right? It was an anomaly when Selden won with Dr. Surf and Surf. Like that was one of the reasons it's such a good story. And I'm not arguing it's not near the top of the S tier, but it's not going to be the best converting deck at LobsterCon. It's not going to be the best performing deck at LobsterCon. Even if it wins, its population will be outstripped by some goofuses playing Tinkerfling like last year. Like that's just the nature of one tournament happening like on one weekend in May of 2026. Right,
but if you're,
when you make the argument,
Mike, that's fine. Mike, that's fine. Just saying that variance happens is fine. But I'm like, okay, well, over 100 LobsterCons, what's going to happen, and what happens if people like iterate in between the 100 LobsterCons? Because I agree with you that fundamentally, like a deck that is going to be 14% of the metagame, like it was, last year, is necessarily going to fail to hit its metrics in comparison to a deck like Elves, right? Which is going to be played at like less than 5%. And, generally speaking, like our expectation is that because Elves is an expensive deck, you have to be dedicated to the blade. Like, your average Elf pilot is just going to do better than your average Dreadnought pilot. But, if I think about a deck that if I think about a bunch of like the best players presumably in the world like going at it, like it wouldn't be until we had like some sort of like closed weird inbred metagame system that Dreadnought gets effectively hated out, right? In these like open field tournaments, I think people are just going to continue to get crushed by Dreadnought. And the people who have edge, like I would place more solid bets on like the Dave Kaplan, Justin Provençal type people playing Dreadnought than I would on any specialist on any other deck, right? Like that's kind of like where I land on that.
I mean, if your question is, your statement rather is, I'm going to put more weight in Kaplan specializing on Dreadnought than any other player specializing in any other deck. Probably I would agree with that. But I still think Dreadnought's narrative is going to be somewhere squarely in the 66th to 75th percentile. Like that's not the champion's narrative. So, but I could be wrong. Brian Selden won back-to-back LobsterCons.
The way that I think about it is really just like, this year we're going to have a longer tournament. It's going to be 14 rounds. Which means
6-3 on day one. Am I even alive still?
Yeah, you're live. So 11-3 can make the cut, which means that you have some rounds to give, which is going to kind of plausibly have a separating effect on the sort of type like the Tinker Fling thing that happened, right? Where it's less likely for some sort of high variance deck to kind of survive round after round after round.
What happens in well metagamed long tournaments is that like when you're about 75 to 80% of the way through the tournament is when the best players of the best decks peak, and then they end up either killing each other or getting cannibalized by rogues in the last 20 to 15% of the tournament. Then going into top 8. That's just how long tournaments have always functioned. So I think it's interesting.
So you think more high variance and weaker pilots are going to be in the top 8 of LobsterCon than a shorter LobsterCon?
No. What I'm saying, it's a curve, right? So imagine you have a 1-round tournament, right? Like that's the most variance. Okay, like they're like, okay, flip a coin. The good players are gonna win at a lower rate than expectation, because in a 1-round tournament there's more variance. So it's like, okay, in a longer tournament then there's less variance. That's true, but it's a curve. It's not a straight line. It's not an infinite number of rounds creates the least variance. The problem is because of how pairings work, the people with high records of like record kill each other, and the players who are slightly below jump them in the last 2 to 3 rounds of the tournament. So because those players were weaker going into the last rounds, they don't get paired against the players who are performing the best. Just watch any Pro Tour, right? Like the Caw-Blade and Dragonstorm.
Mike, I'm going to stop you right there, because I think that's going to be extremely difficult to quantify, right? Because you wouldn't be able to, like, the problem is you have to build this like narrative of like, you would have to be able to assign Simon Nielsen like a specific edge, and then like the guy who didn't beat Simon Nielsen a specific edge. If all you're saying is that some people who start X and 2 are going to end X and 3, and some people who start X and O are going to end X and 4, and like if you cut the tournament off earlier, all of those X and O's would have been in, and all those X and 2s wouldn't have been in, even though they finished whatever. Like that's variance.
What I'm saying is these are 2 examples, but like they're examples because they're easy to conceptualize. In the Pro Tour that Ben Stark won with Caw-Blade, like with 3 rounds out, all the Caw-Blade players were still alive, right? There were like 12 of 15 were still alive. There was 2 of them in the top 8. They killed each other because they were all still alive, and then they got jumped. In the Pro Tour that Chapin and Nassif played Dragonstorm against each other, at the end of day 1, the worst record any of them had was 1 loss. Theoretically, there should have been 7 of them in the top 8. There were 2 of them in the top 8. They killed each other.
I don't know that it's true that theoretically. I mean, you can pretty easily just say that's one of the outcomes that can happen if everyone starts X and 1. Like every 2 days, like just
they all had the same record, and then they stopped having the same record.
Yeah, obviously, because at the end of every tournament, like at the end of every day 1, people have certain records, and then the standings just change. If you just eliminate the idea, like the thing is, you're attaching narrative to the fact that they're playing certain decks. If you just like looked at their records. And
all
like
the people with the same deck with the same record played against each other because that's
like a specific thing that happened, but that would have just happened in any sample tournament where that happens. Like all the X1s play each other anyways, and some of them will win and some of them lose. The fact that incidentally they were playing the same deck doesn't actually say anything specific. You're just kind of like editorializing now that you know that the tournament swung out that way, because there's nobody would have noticed that effect when there's like 5 different decks that go X1 into day 2, and then there's 5 different decks that aren't all the same people.
I'm addressing your point that Dreadnought is so S tier, right? And I'm saying like it is it's not impossible, but like you would have to have either you would have to a super overabundance of Dreadnought players, or they would have to have very ragged records going into the last 3 rounds in order for them not to eliminate each other. That's actually what I'm saying.
I mean, I think that the more of the thing is that the edge is like the edge between a Dreadnought player and an Enchantress player or a Replenish player would be not large enough to overcome the fact, that like there's individual variance. Because I do think that if you played a 50-person tournament, and then you cut to top 8, on average you might get 3 or 4 3.5 Dreadnought players versus 1.5 or 2, right? But like the thing is, it can range. Like the thing is, it's like if you just set the line, right? I think if you set the line on Dreadnought in the top 8, you would have to set it like above 1, probably above 2.
Yeah, above
and
1.
That's already, you wouldn't set it at above 2. So
it's hard.
So you're saying
above
that
2 is 3 or more, right? There's not gonna. I don't think there's
right,
gonna
but
be
it's a
4.
line. Like you just put your life savings on it, right? Like, or do you think like
I
you know?
think 2 or I mean, it's
if you set the
3.
line.
I mean, that's the guess that I put in the in the Phil Nguyen. I don't remember if I put 2 or 3, but I put one of those 2 numbers in.
I would bet the farm on like. I guess 1.5. I mean, I guess it's like a raise within margin. But the thing is, like, if you
seems low. Because there's too many of them. That's the thing.
Exactly,
right. So what's 15% of 8? Actually, let's just do that for a second.
I think it's just 1, because 12.25 is 12.
Okay,
1 in 8 is 12.25%. So 15% is
right,
slightly higher than 1.
We're both predicting an overperformance then. If it's at 15, what was that last year?
I think it was 14% last year. 14% has always been like the number. But anyways, I want to dial back and just be like, okay, well, you know, like it would be an outrageous outcome. You have to kind of measure it against the population. But I think like if LobsterCon happens and like 3 Dreadnought players in the top 8, I don't think that's gonna like surprise people. Like every other deck that happens, especially Tinkerfling, but like Elves, Enchantress, Replenish, if 3 people are in the top 8. Well, that's
because all the Tinkerfling players made it, basically, right? Like that's the...
Yeah, that's outrageous. But I'm just saying, like, nobody would bat an eyelash at Dreadnought, like, putting 2 or 3 in the top 8, you know, like it's done multiple years, versus you know, Replenish or Enchantress. Like if there's like 3 Enchantress players in the top 8, I'm still going to be like, wow, what the hell happened there? And I guess that's saying
2 last year out of, but who worked together? Like
I know, I was surprised. Yeah, it was Packer.
Well, they're also very
Rich.
strong players, right?
Yeah.
So,
anyways, I don't want to get too in the weeds. Dreadnought, I think, is the best deck. Like I can agree or we can agree or disagree on how by far it's the best deck. I think that the factors contributing to it is that it's just very powerful, very resilient, and very consistent.
Yes, it's very one color.
I think that no deck comes close on hitting all 3 of those axes at the same time. But we can talk about the deck that does come close, or we can just get on to the next deck after we did 30 minutes on Dreadnought.
What is your next deck you want to put?
We can just go down the line, or you can just start cherry picking.
So Alluren, I would put in C tier.
Okay, Alluren in C.
I used to think Alluren was really good. It has 3 incredibly bad things going for it. One of them is, let's say you were just not afraid of Moneyball Black, and you're just going, I'm not scared of Moneyball Black. What are they going to be? 1 in 10, might not play them all day. Okay. Like that's your attitude. And you're like, I'm so not afraid. I'm going to play Dreadnought. Then you have these other people who are like, I'm so afraid of Dreadnought. I'm so afraid of Moneyball Black. I'm not going to play Dreadnought. Right? Like that's the opposite position you can take. Well, fleeing to Alluren is not a place that you can go if you are trying to avoid the bad.
Like this is like a really long way of just saying Alluren's not good against Moneyball Black specifically.
But it's also like equally. It's actually not even equal. It's horrible against any deck that has more than 4 counter spells. Like it's helpless to Landstill, and Landstill is like not one of the best counterspell decks. I think that those are 2 things, and then the other thing is it's pretty gimmicky, like around the green double lands, which is cute. It does some cute stuff. Obviously, it has arguably the highest ceiling of any deck in the format. Like it outlifes life. You know, like that's a thing that's pretty good about it. But just it has worse counterspell vulnerability than Enchantress, and equal or worse Moneyball vulnerability than Dreadnought. That's a bad pairing, I think, when there are Enchantress and Dreadnought available as decks you can play.
All right. I think that you are like maybe discounting how like this deck can be good, but I also don't think that
it is.
I don't think I would put it like much higher than C anyways. Like I would put it somewhere in the B mix. Like I do think that it has some vulnerabilities. I have been like generally from what I've seen, I would agree with like the people who play Alluren saying like they can beat any like one thing, like they can beat counterspell. Like you're saying they can never beat a deck containing 4 counterspells. I think that's like absurd. Like I think that if a deck has counterspells in Meddling Mage, or it has counterspells in discard, or if it has, you know, discard and mana denial, like I think that once you start mixing in those two things happening at the same time, your outlook is a lot worse. And I do think that like the fact that you can nut draw people anyways, you know, helps hedge against those, which is only sort of tempered by the fact that your nut draw is a 3-card parlay minimum. So you have some flexibility on those cards. It can be Mana War, Soul Warden. It can be
nobody
Cabin
just
Heartbeat,
has counterspell. So that's the thing. Like nobody just has counterspell. Like except Dreadnought actually. But other decks that have counterspells don't just have counterspell. For example, Psychotog has counterspell and discard. Standstill has counterspell.
Right. The words that you said were it can't beat any deck that has 4 counterspells.
I'm just saying, like, all the decks that have 4 counterspells also have other stuff.
That's not implied when you say, like, that's not implied when you say it. You're not saying, like, whatever. But also, regardless,
all the other decks have Meddling Mage and counterspell.
I actually think that the Dreadnought matchup is probably, like, you know, halfway reasonable just because you have.
Actually, that's one of Alluren's good matchups.
Yeah, you have Xantid Swarm and you have Mana War, and those are like pretty good. But
you could still lose on turn 2.
But it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat counterspells in game 1, which means that you have to fight uphill, and you can't lose on turn 2. You can lose on turn 4 at the minimum, which is actually really good if you're the learned player, because like they can turn 2 combo you. You can be like Mana War, and then they can be like, okay, counterspell that, and then you can be like, okay, Alluren, and then they won't be able to counterspell that. But regardless, I don't want to spoil too much sauce. I think that this deck is like at least interesting, and I think that if you've been studying this deck, you don't actually need us to tell you how good it is. I'm sure you figured it out yourself. Moving on to Elves. I have Elves in A. I think Elves is still a good deck. SW was kind of low on it because he like didn't win the tournament with Elves at Bearded, but you know, if I was going to put it in A or B, like I wouldn't put it in S, and if I was going to put it in A or B, I'd put it in A.
I would have it straddling A and B if I'm allowed to do that. I think it is.
Well, we can order these groups.
I think it is a very good deck. Like I said, I just wouldn't rate bad decks. I think it is a very good deck, and it has some pretty bad fault points, like that are just like many of them are incurable. Like they're catastrophically incurable, and that's the thing. And you just be like, well, I'm just going to discount this fault point, but you can't discount all of them, right? Like you can't simultaneously discount every fault point that Elves has. One of the problems with it is actually that as good as Elves can potentially be against Dreadnought, it's a dog in game 1 to a disciplined Dreadnought player. So
yeah, and this actually kind of goes into like the thing that I was mentioning earlier, which is just that like Nick Mayo has to be like, oh well, if people are going to play Dreadnought, I have to play Naturalize sideboard or Naturalize in my main deck, right? And that's just like not a card that he would normally have in his main deck because like whatever, an Nantuko Vigilante can do a good enough job, or it's between Dreadnought and Oath.
I've played a lot of Naturalize in my main deck,
and so if you have an Elves deck, you know, and you're literally saying I'm making my deck worse, but I have to address Dreadnought and to some extent Oath. And that's really just like, that's how good Dreadnought is. It's just like your stock Elf 75 is not going to have a lot of game 1 against Dreadnought, you know, assuming that you abide by the mulligan to a hand that produces Dreadnought on turn 2 way of life.
I like Elves in 3 games against Dreadnought, but they're a dog in game 1, and they're like horrible to extremely horrible against Goblins, Burn, and Oath, you know, which have all declined in popularity and are all still popular decks.
Yeah, I mean, collectively, I think that they make up a reasonable part of the metagame. I do think that, like, Elves versus Moneyball is, like, unsettled law. I mean, survival...
Moneyball's way ahead.
Fair enough. I mean, I think that it definitely is not, like it is getting to the point where Elves is, like, not really happy to see any matchup except for, like, precisely Terrageddon and like sometimes
they took away tide control.
Yeah, they took tide. Yeah.
So if you want to win like some of the matchups, like Enchantress and Replenish, you have to be playing Tanglewire. But who the fuck plays Tanglewire?
Yeah, Tanglewire is like not my favorite Elves.
If you're not Tanglewire, you actually are behind against Replenish and Enchantress. Like. It's weird because I still think Elves is a good deck. It's the deck I use to win League Championship. But I mean, that's why I think I would straddle A and B tier. It's hard for me to be like, oh, this deck is A tier, but it's bad against everything.
All
Like
right.
that's
Well, in that case, what deck would you put ahead of Elves? Like, would you put Burn ahead of Elves in the metagame?
I think.
Would you put
Burn,
Goblins ahead of Elves?
So when you say would I put it ahead of Elves, he's like, would I rather be Burn or would I rather be Goblins? Is that the question?
I'm not saying in the Elves matchup. I'm saying
No.
LobsterCon.
In LobsterCon choices.
Yeah, LobsterCon. Yeah.
I would rather be Burn and I would rather be Goblins.
Okay, I think that would be like. Do you see any reason why you would not put that ahead in our tier list if that's your conclusion?
I'm the one who's saying I don't know if it's A tier.
No, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, like
I'm not trying to fight you, Mike. I'm trying to ask you questions. Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. You're like, oh, I think I put it in A tier. I'm like, I don't know. I'd straddle it to B tier. It's like it's at
we don't have we can't straddle. Okay, I didn't vibe code it in.
In my head right now, it's at the bottom of A tier if we keep it in A tier.
All right, cool. So we're gonna throw. We can talk about Burn and Goblins. I guess it's kind of fun to talk about. Do you like Burn more or Goblins more?
I like Burn a lot more right now. If LobsterCon tomorrow, I'd play Burn.
Okay.
And I know that that's like a meme for me, but this is very contextually driven. I think like I don't know, like if we just go on vibes, I just don't want to. How do I put this? I played a lot of Dreadnought in my life, right? I played a lot of Dreadnought in big tournaments. I played a lot of Dreadnought in leagues. In big tournaments, I've never not top aided with Dreadnought. I've never not done it, right? Like, in fact, I don't know if I've ever lost a Swiss match, right? Like, and so Dreadnought's really good, but the problem is I've done more O3s with Dreadnought than I have any other deck. And the weird thing about it is like you just get paired into Moneyball Black or Black White Control or Dead Guy Ale or whatever, and it just feels terrible, right? I don't know. The problem is you used to be like, all right, I'm gonna stage 3 them, but now people just play 4 Witherdretch in their main deck and they just like turn off your entire.
All right, we're talking about Burn. Let's get to the part where you talk about Burn.
So I'm like, yeah, the contrapositive of that is, I guess let's play Burn.
Yeah, so you're basically saying Burn does a lot better at League, but you never win Swiss tournaments with Burn, whereas you win a bunch of Swiss tournaments.
Actually, I have won Swiss tournaments with Burn, but I beat you in the top 8 of one of them. The thing that I would say about Burn is if I'm playing Burn and I just get paired into Dreadnought and lose to Dreadnought a bunch of times, I feel like the person who was playing Dreadnought was probably good enough to beat me, right? And I don't mind losing to people who are good enough to beat me. If I'm playing Dreadnought and I lose to a doofus with Black White Control or The Rock or Moneyball, which are maybe not Moneyballs. Actually, Rich Shea is asking if he could trade for Knight of Stromgald now. So like maybe not Moneyball. I don't feel like feeling the feelings that you would have when you're Dreadnought and somebody Ravenous Rats your last counterspell before hard casting a Snuff Out on your 12/12, right? It just don't want to feel those feelings. I didn't live through the months of March and April to feel that way.
Fair enough. I think that if we zoom out and just like, obviously we have Dreadnought above Burn, so you're just really talking about yourself here. But when we talk about Burn in the metagame, like and Burn and Goblins in the metagame, I actually think it's pretty interesting because Burn and Goblins in the metagame is like very similar to Dreadnought and Replenish in the metagame. More people play Burn. Burn has cheaper spells. They do kind of the same thing a lot of the time. I've played against a lot of Goblins recently. I'm just like, dang, Goblins is such a good deck. They just
Goblins is an overperformer. Burn is an underperformer.
I think that Burn requires like a little bit more brain. But because Goblins is like so overwhelmingly good, right? So Lackey's amazing. Goblin War Chief is amazing. Goblin Ringleader is amazing.
3, 4, and 5 mana for your spells, like it just doesn't feel good. Versus like Burn is like Dreadnought. Like that. The reason I like Burn is it's like Dreadnought. Like all my cards cost 1. I have a 1-color deck. If my opponent stumbles, I kill them on turn 4.
Yeah,
right? That's just Dreadnought.
That's
right?
why
like,
I think. That's why I think Burn. That's why I think Burn is like Dreadnought and Goblins is like Replenish. Like Goblins has a bunch of
like,
overcosted, like extremely impressive, powerful spells. And Burn has a bunch of like undercosted, like efficient, svelte, beautiful spells.
Goblins, quote unquote, powerful spells are just tutus that cost a variety of different amounts of mana. I mean,
yeah, but they all like convert for like at least 8 damage, right? It's just kind of like, okay, you're like, oh, my opponent just has a 2/2, except for it gives all the other 2/2s haste, including the 10/1, or the 10/2. Like it's like pretty good.
The thing about
right?
Burn is, I think Burn is in a unique position right now, which is funny for a non-rotating format that has some cleverness to it, and I love cleverness in Magic, and I think like you can be clever right now, and it's I think the first time you can be clever with Burn the entire time I've been playing the format, and you can be clever.
Yeah, nothing is really
interesting things. You can beat people's sideboard cards. Like it's
nothing about my take on Burn has really changed. In this metagame versus previous ones, I think that it's like a good deck, and if you're like the best Burn player on the planet, good for you. But if you could be the best any player on the planet, I would like not choose Burn to be the best at.
So basically. Like, let's say you are the best Burn player, maybe not on the planet, but in the pre-modern format. How much better of a Burn player are you than you are a Dreadnought player? Because you're also a really good Dreadnought player. Like that's actually the cut, right?
And those skills are transferable. Like I think we talk about this a lot. But yeah, that's exactly my point. It's just like if you happen, like Rich Shea likes to play Burn. Right, it's just like, have you seen Rich Shea play Dreadnought recently? Same thing. It's like there was like that, and Andy like played Dreadnought at League for
306'd, but he just also 306'd with Moneyball. Do you see how Andy's playing real decks now, and he's at the top of the league standings?
Yeah,
go figure, right? Like,
yeah. So, anyways, I think that at the end of the day, like this is where Spike Colony is just going to diverge from the rest of the world, because Spike Colony is like a couple of players who've like really dedicated themselves to Burn and like. Basically don't see the same kind of results that like the population does, where like Burn is also going to be like a 10% of the field deck, and it's going to consistently underperform based on its field percentage. But, I do think that like if you're going to like talk about decks in the metagame, that people are going to play at the Swiss tournament, I think it's like very appropriate to put Burn ahead of Elves, because I do think that like people who are like pretty skilled at Elves are going to start banging their head against the wall, because they keep on running into these matchups, and it's like not really clear what Elves is doing well, right? I think Elves is like a weirdly inconsistent deck for a deck that doesn't have a lot of game against like not mid-range, right? It's kind of weak to it's quite weak to combo. And it's quite weak to various aggressive strategies, so it's kind of like caught in the middle.
So there's a couple of different, ways that we can go about this. When I said, look, how many decks do you want to put in the S tier? I depending on how many decks you want to put in the S tier, I would be tempted to put Burn in the S tier for because it is so Dreadnought-like, and that like these aren't even intangibles, right? Like being one color is valuable. Having all your cards be one casting cost is valuable. Killing your opponent on turn 4 is valuable, and having essentially no non-dedicated fault points is valuable. Burn has no fault points. The thing that is a fault point about Burn is that, well, there's two. One of them is Dreadnought is faster, right? And that is, but the other one is it's worse than Dreadnought, that like if people want to beat Burn, they can. Like remember that beer tournament where we both played Burn, and then we've like started off 3-0 and then just ran into like a buzzsaw of people playing Warmth and Chill in the same deck, right? Like Warmth, Chill, and Enchantress was the back half of my Swiss that day. If people want to beat you, they can. And it's a lot different than.
Well, I actually beat Silver Knight Worship that tournament, so I don't have that problem.
We were both 3-0, and I played against the eventual winner, who was the Landstill deck. After I won game 1. Oh no! Did you? You played him in round 2. He beat you, but then you won out, right? And I played him in
something
round 3.
like that.
Yeah, something like that. I think I was 3-0.
If you started that tournament 3-0, you would have locked top 8 because it was less than 32 players. I don't want to get too far into it. I don't think.
I'm just saying. I don't think we all know that if you want to beat Burn, you can.
I don't think we can put Burn in S tier.
It depends on how many decks you have in S tier.
I think it's like very hard to make a case. Well, that's why I said like I think the decks in S tier are going to be like. I mean, we can cut to the chase. Like I think
Let's just like start shoveling decks.
I think Enchantress is S tier, and I think like Replenish is somewhere in between top of A tier and bottom of S tier.
No way. I think Enchantress is S tier, arguably higher than Dreadnought all in, right? So I think that like in the abstract, Dreadnought has things that are going for it that are better than Enchantress, but like you have to make an all in bet. Like Enchantress is so specialized. You can't just play Magic and beat Enchantress, right? Like you can play Magic and beat Burn. Like having cards like Disenchant, Seal of Cleansing, Naturalize, Pernicious Deed, Swords to Plowshares interact with Dreadnought. You can beat them that way. Like you probably won't if they're good, but you can. Nothing interacts with Enchantress except for trying to beat Enchantress, right? Like you beat Enchantress because you have cards like Haunting.
You can beat their mana base too.
You can beat their mana base, but if they're not,
and also Engineered Plague is free.
Okay, if they're not mana screwed, they know how to work with anchors, right? Like, and they have like any kind of a reasonable distribution of anchors, non-anchors, and lands. They always win unless you're combo, right? So Replenish beats them, and I think like dedicated combo decks can outrace them because Enchantress doesn't actually close the game that fast, but it has like an insurmountable advantage against non-counterspell decks, non-combo decks. And so I think like you just.
Well, I think what Rich was saying, he doesn't like the Terragon matchup, which I think is like a big knock against Enchantress.
Which is weird. We just keep going. GW Mad Dogs, I don't know, man. I'd put that lower than Alluren. The one thing I do like about it is the interaction between the dogs, the hounds, the savage bastards, and the curse scroll is very cool.
You just like doing 2 damage. You just like discarding 3 cards so that you can shock somebody for 3 damage.
I love it. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I don't know if I agree on that being the part of the deck. I do like that it gets to play cool. Glory, and Glory is kind of a sick card. It's protection and unblockability.
Yeah, this is just another one of these Mishra's Factory Wasteland 2-color decks with a 3 casting cost, white activation cost in its green 1-drop deck, right? Like, it is cool. I mean, but like...
You just have to activate it once a lot of the time.
I mean... Patrol Hound is not a powerful Magic card.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it is that it's like a beatdown deck. Like it's a deck with creatures, and it has like just enough random stuff that aren't creatures that can like change how the game goes, right? So it's like added on its surface, it's a deck that plays creatures with 2 power, a few creatures with 4 power, a few creatures with 1 power. Like, so it's just a weenie deck. But it also just gets to play Glory, it gets to play Arrogant Worm, it gets to play Curse Scroll, you can play Waxwane, you can do a bunch of stuff with it.
I do like
it
Waxwane.
gets to play Wasteland.
It's weird.
So it's kind of a sick deck in that, like, okay, well, if your opponent is like not doing something that's good against creatures, like you can get them, right? Like, I think one of the things that I think I've said this before, but like Swords to Plowshares is like such a huge presence in the format, and it's like, but that doesn't mean that creature decks don't fail to succeed. In fact, creature decks fail to succeed by playing through Swords of Plowshare. So like you have Mother of Runes, you have Tireless Tribe, you have your Wild Mongols. Your Wild Mongols produce Arrogant Worms. All of a sudden, if you're just a deck that is like leaning on Swords of Plowshares to be like your stop for creatures, like obviously Goblins and Elves are like the most broken way to basically play through, where Plowshares is barely good against Elves, and Goblins it's good, but like
I think it's very good against both of those decks because decks with Swords of Plowshares often have different mid-game cards, and you break the homogeny of the opposing deck with the speed of Swords of Plowshares, and then you get to your mid-range thing, which is maybe can outmuscle them. So I do think it's pretty good in those situations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Like a Swords of Plowshares against a Goblin.
But these exactly, and these decks get like the Goblins, Elves, and Mad Dogs of the world get to play other cards too. Like the Mad Dogs just gets to play Call of the Herd. That's like kind of sick. I'm like, okay, well, it's a deck that goes like 1-1-2-2, 3-3-3-3, or 1-1-2-2-4-4, 3-3 or whatever. It's just kind of like.
I spent a lot of time playing these kinds of decks with the Armadillo Cloaks. I had Soltari Priests, stuff like that, testing for extended Pro Tours back in the day. They were just never as good as the Donate deck, and Dreadnought is the Donate deck.
I would agree with that.
Where do you have Grow?
Grow, I mean, so this is the part where I have to be like, okay, well, I'm the only person in the world who like plays this deck like I do. Like I've watched other people play it. I've watched other people.
Let's assume people are at the apex, right?
If they're me, then
at the apex. I don't know if you're the apex. If they're at the apex,
I am absolutely. Like, I am obviously the like.
You're
look,
obviously
if you're
the
going
apex.
to,
Where do you
if you're
put
going
Grow?
to ask, if you're going to ask me, like, granted, there's people who've top aided their national championships with Grotog with 4 Mox Diamonds. They've done all sorts of stuff. But like, if you're going to ask me, like, I've worked on this deck, I've studied it, I've made it as best that I can, and I watch other people play, you know, varying like kinds of this deck. I can't watch too many people, obviously, because not too many people play the deck, and I'm just kind of like, okay, well, I think that if I'm not doing it better, I think that I'm doing it different. And if you're me, I think it would be a like.
Did you sell all your Mox Diamonds?
I traded them away. I told you already. I said it in a previous podcast. I traded them for Cradles and Survivals, Gold Border.
Okay. All right. So
traded them so I can play other decks.
Where did you put the deck?
So if it's like me, I would be like, oh, it's top of A tier, and obviously like I'm playing the deck instead of playing Enchantress or Dreadnought, which are both decks that I feel comfortable playing. So I am saying something by doing that. But yeah, if it's me, I'd put it like, you know, in front of A tier. And if it's if it wasn't me, then I would say it's like a B or C tier deck because
it's not C tier. I think like if
we have nothing in B right now, so that's
we'll get there. We also haven't touched most of the decks.
Probably just slide these over.
I would have Grow behind Sly in the A tier. I don't think it is better than Sly. Even at the apex. I think that Sly at the apex is better than Grow at the apex. If for no other reason than Sly has more free wins.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would, if I was to reduce everything down to equity, like I would like to play Grow, you know, over Sly. I do think that I play both like close to the upper limit. Although for what it's worth, I haven't been building Sly, so I think that like if I was building the deck, you know, I'd have a little bit more familiarity. But like I've been working really hard on my Grow list, and I do think that like I'm getting somewhere near the best that the list can be. And I think that, you know, it also, like, generally speaking, I think that consistency in pre-modern is super, super good. So, you know, the thing that makes 12-12 super good is playing lots of cantrips. The thing that made Enchantress really good was playing 4 copies of Seraph Sanctum, 4 copies of Mirror's Guile, maybe even Sylvan Library, so that you could, like, find these cards with some relative consistency. And so I think that Grow is bringing like a lot of that to the table by playing like as many cantrips as you can. And when the matches are actually played and you have edge, like seeing more cards and drawing more cards is going to help you. And you're going to be in spots with Burn where you're like, the best thing that I can do is try to draw a burn spell. And you might be 65% to draw a burn spell, but you might draw a Jackal Pup, or you might draw.
Yeah, I've drawn a Jackal Pup at the wrong time. That's actually the main way I've ever lost a match is drawing a Jackal Pup,
right? And so if you ask, like, you know, and so like if you ask me like, oh, well, what would you rather do? Like try to like hinge your destiny on like I might draw a Jackal Pup, or sort of craft your fate by being like, okay, well, whatever, I can flood out. Every deck can flood out, but if I don't flood out, I am playing a bunch of card selection, a bunch of things that can interact meaningfully with what my opponents are doing. Like my sort of like, you know, thing would be like, sure, I don't get free wins, but like I don't really bucket free wins into some other world, right? A win's a win. And like at the end of the day, if you're winning, you know, with Grotog, or if you're winning with Tinkerfling, or you're winning with Dreadnought, like it doesn't matter how free it was. At the end of the day,
you're talking about people playing at the apex against human opponents, not like playing against AIs or whatever. I think like there's a lot more volatility in terms of the quality of wins that you get with Grow versus Sly, and that ends up translating into the frequency of wins that you get, right? Like, and like the reason for that is like human players just get antsy when they see mountains. Like, and this is a thing Lan taught me, and he's just like, Burn is the one deck that you should never get antsy against. Yeah, it's scary, but you can always quantify how bad it can be, right? Like decks with cantrips, you can't necessarily quantify, but people get the antsiest against Burn.
Yeah. Like if you're sitting there against Dreadnought and they have like 7 cards in hand, you're like, oh no. If you're sitting against a Burn opponent with 7 cards in your hand, you're like, at least you can just be like, okay, well, I think they can deal 15 damage or whatever, you know. Like,
I played only Jackal Pups at Andy's last weekend, and then I showed up to Pauper League this week. Did not play any Pauper, just tested Premodern with Rich and Chris. Everybody's like, "Oh, Mike, welcome back." I'm like, "I'm not playing Pauper. I literally showed up to play Premodern." And I had a game against Chris where I took out his Dreadnought in a sideboard game. He plays his second land, taps 2 mana, and I'm like, "Oh shoot." He's like, no, it's just a gush. And then he just had another Dreadnought in play.
Yeah, it's just a gush.
I'm like, he had his last 2 cards. He's like, oh, it's just a gush. And like that gush turned into again, and I couldn't beat the second Dreadnought, right?
Yeah.
Like I beat the first Dreadnought already.
And that's why it's important to kind of talk about like how often a deck wins versus how it feels. But like the thing is, we as humans can't possibly like. So one of the things, like, oh, I'm a great grow player. I win all these matches. But like the thing is, I do win matches against, like you said, human opponents. Like if I'm just sitting there and I'm playing grow against the best Moneyball Black players, I'm playing grow against the best 12/12 players, the best Enchantress players. Like sure, I'm not going to like my odds. Like against a tournament where that is like. Maybe eventually I'm going to run into very, very great players on decks that are good that I think that I have a good matchup against, but all of a sudden my edge from being me is going to start getting erased because they're going to be more efficient. They're not going to be throwing away cards. Like then all of a sudden it starts looking a lot worse. But the only thing that I control is like making sure that I'm not throwing away cards. And I think that one of the things that Grow does really good is it literally does not throw away a single card across 3 games, with the exception of the 3rd time you tap a Gemstone Mine, right? Like,
okay, so you put Standstill the Rock and Red Green Zoo in B tier.
I don't even know.
Was that a joke? Okay, first of all, Standstill is the pits. I would put it under G. I would much more gladly play GW Mad Dogs than I would play Standstill.
All right. Well, that's just the case for moving Mad Dogs up.
I mean, Standstill is so bad, right? Like it is a slow. I played Standstill 3 years ago at LobsterCon. Okay, it is a slow deck where you're going to get unintended draws, not because you didn't deserve the win, but because your opponent played like a glacier, like the glacier that is represented by your mana base. But the real thing that is a big deal is that we live in a world where there are 2.5 kinds of decks in Premodern: decks that can play Sabo's Web. And decks that are destroyed by Sabo's Web.
Yeah, Mike, you shared this on a previous podcast. Yeah, we understand. Landstill super
deck
sucks.
Is destroyed by Sabo's
Web. I think that players have been doing like better with Landstill than I expected. Like it's been sort of showing up to tournaments, so that's why I was giving it a little bit of the nod. Like if I was going to play the Rock at LobsterCon, I would play Blue White the Rock. Whether or not you put that in B or C, like I'm looking at this now, and I do feel like we're not going to end up with any Bs.
No, we are. They're decks in B.
Oh yeah, give me a B. Give me a B.
Well, no, we have to move up decks. Red Green Zoo is the pits. I think it's worse than Standstill. And the Rock is basically equivalent to Elves. I think I'd put it up in 8.
Oh my God, you like Elves and Elves here?
Yeah,
or the Rock here?
I think the Rock is actually
okay. That's completely outrageous. I'm not putting that on the internet, so I'm just like devoting it. I'm never putting the Rock in A tier. Okay, like, what are you talking about? So when was the last time you expected the Rock to do better than 4 and 3?
This might be more of an indictment of Elves than.
Let's just demote Elves. Elves doesn't have to be
put
A
Elves
tier.
in B tier because I'm not. Like I told you, I would put it like maybe in B tier.
Okay. But we're never putting the Rock in A tier.
I think it's about as good as Elves. That's my point. Okay, Psychotog is solidly B tier. I think it is better than the Rock. So you could do Elves, Psychotog, the Rock in B tier. The problem, I think Psychotog was really pretty good, but the problem with it is everything that makes Dreadnought potentially exploitable is now worse with Psychotog because people are playing more Smothers, people are playing more Chainer's Edict. There's decks with literal Chainer's Edict. Like Psychotog cannot withstand Chainer's Edicts. That's a big problem. And it everything that's bad about Dreadnought, Psychotog has the same fault points, except for it's like just even more exploitable. I'll
counter that, which is like Psychotog has 8 more cards in its deck to do stuff with, right? So it's like if we were going to just compare it like nuts to bolts, you get an advantage from being a deck that doesn't have Force Stifle for Vision Charm because you can play Duress, you can play more cantrips, you can play more counterspells.
In particular, you get Factor Fiction.
I mean, that is if you're playing Fact or Fiction. Not every Psychotog deck is right now, but like I do think that Psychotog is good because it gets to play blue cards, and I do think that Psychotog is worse than Dreadnought, and I do think that Psychotog is worse than Grotog. And I also want to add
just
that
encompasses many of the reasons you would want to play Psychotog.
That's true. So I want to add that I would like at least include in this evaluation the concept of this like 5-color Psychotog deck, which is just the Grotog deck without Korean Dryad.
Yeah.
But I will say I'm like, okay, well, that deck is more of a control deck. People are still very attached to playing Mox Diamonds in that deck. That deck likes to play Impulse. That deck likes to play Island Mox Diamond Impulse on turn 1 so that they can draw their third land, like their second land drop, which is just like, I don't know. Like, I'm just kind of like, this is, if it whatever works for you, man. But regardless, that's a deck that exists. And I think that's helping, like, if you imagine, there's kind of two ways to look at it. You can imagine that Psychotog is a deck that deserves to exist. It does something meaningfully different than what Grotog does. I think you can absolutely make that argument. If you ask me, I think that like in like my attempts to make Psychotog better, make it closer to Grotog, and then I think that Grotog is just like a perfectly serviceable deck that, you know, if you wanted to, Grotog can just be a Psychotog deck after sideboarding. If that was ever better. But I'm like looking at every single matchup in the universe, and I'm just like, well, Korean Dryad is good against like 90% of these decks, right?
I think there were just a lot of decks historically that like there was just ended up being a faster version where people were like, okay, I'm going to play this Jason the Mind Sculptor deck that has, you know, sword combo or whatever. And it was like, you could just play, you know, this 2020 deck that also has sword combo. It's just faster. And I feel like Grow is just encompasses any real reason you'd want to play Psychotog. Grow can do, and everything that like is an inducement from Psychotog is just twice as much mana. So you're like, so I can play Smother. I'm like, oh, I can play Sword Supply Shares.
Yeah. Well, you know, basically the only reason, the big reason that you play Psychotog, specifically blue-black Psychotog over Grotog, is so that you can play basic Swamp and Underground River instead of City of Brass. And then I personally can't make a case for playing 5-color Psychotog instead of Grotog, like, unless, you know, I guess maybe you can be like, okay, the reason you play 5-color Psychotog is so that you get to play Mox Diamond, and it's like a better Mox Diamond deck. I'm just like, okay, it's something along those lines.
We can move on. I think, what's the next deck? Oath?
Yeah.
I think that's in B tier, and it's probably better than the Rock.
I think Oath is A tier. I think this deck is still really good, and it doesn't get enough love.
Or you think it's just about as good as Goblins?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, if it's about as good as Goblins, okay, I can live with that.
I think it might be better than Goblins, but that's kind of neither here nor there.
I wouldn't mind being better than Goblins. So like if you had put a gun to my head and to pick one of the two decks, I'd pick Goblins. But
I think that the deck still does what it does, and you know, it's kind of weird. But like when I play it, like, I don't know, I played it without Moxes and I got 2/4/1s, and the only, like, I think I lost to Elves both times actually. But like the rest of the time, I'm just like, wow, this deck is very, very consistent. Like it blows up your opponent's land.
Like you just have these like overlapping giant circles, right? Like, and you're just like, all right, well, did I draw a Thermokarst draw and my opponent was a little light on mana? I won. Like, oh, did I have second turn Sphere of Resistance? My opponent was a little light on mana. I won. Like it's very opportunistic, and I feel like even if you're like you get 2/4/1s, I mean the N was only 10 matches, right? Those things just happen.
No. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's like, you know, I get 4/1s with every deck. I can't not get a 4/1 except for if I'm playing Moneyball. But like we'll address that later. Like
if you want to put it ahead of Goblins, I'm fine. You can't put it ahead of Sly. And I think Sly is the top of the A tier, but we should move on. Reanimator. Well,
my last thing on Oath Fonza is that people should play Smokestack and they should consider not playing Mox Diamond.
All right. So Reanimator is better than Mad Dogs. How can it be better than Mad Dogs and worse than Standstill? I think there might be something wrong here.
Oh yeah, we can move. I just it's like this setup is like hard to move stuff around.
Yeah.
So but like you think Red Green Zoo sucks. We don't have to talk too much about Reanimator. Not that many people play Reanimator. I don't play Reanimator. Have you played Reanimator?
I have. It is all its biggest guy is smaller than a turn 2 12/12.
All right.
its main inducements, if you have a putrid imp, you don't get killed by Black Vice. Like,
Okay,
I don't know,
okay,
it's cute.
okay. We're already way too deep on Reanimator then.
Yeah,
It's not
fine.
it. All right,
It's
Sam,
not as
Sam,
good as Alluren.
Sam Black, Gush Tithe.
I think that's like.
This is like a weird deck to put.
I would
anyway.
rather play it than Ponza Oath.
Where would you put Sam Black playing Sam Black Gush Tithe?
I mean, I'm rating the tier of the deck, not Sam Black.
Well, this is actually
personally, right?
easy, right? Because like we literally have like quote unquote the optimal list and the optimal pilot, so you really can guess like is the best Sam Black going to do better than the best, say, Mike Flores playing Burn?
I think the best Mike Flores playing Burn will outperform the best Sam Black.
Like ours is like like we can we can fight over Grow and Sly because it's just like Mike versus Lanny, and then we're just like throwing Sam in there, and we have to believe that we do better than Sam.
I think I would put it about there. I think is fine. The deck has like tremendously bad fault points that Sam covers up by being better than the players he plays against on average.
Yeah,
right.
I'm not going like okay. This is just going to be like the huge disclaimer. I think you could put all three of these decks in B tier if you're like not the exact individuals we're talking about, because like obviously I think Ro is an incredible deck, obviously Mike thinks Burn's an incredible deck, and obviously thinks Sam thinks Tithe is an incredible deck. And I also do think that if you like, I do think that it is attainable. Like I put out a lot of YouTube content after LobsterCon is over, like you're gonna see a lot more like on Grow and why I think it's a great deck. And I think that it's attainable, and much the same, like I do think that like, Andy Levine was playing with Sam's deck and he was like having a lot of fun with it. I wouldn't be surprised that he could make it great.
Knocks. Andy told me he thought that Sam's deck was really good against 12-12. I beat him like 6 games in a row with 12-12. Like that's one, right? Like the second thing about it is the deck has 1 million basic planes and 1 million basic islands. And that is great if you have an infinite amount of time. But if your opponent is pressuring you on turn 1 and turn 2, and they're constantly forcing you to tap your mana,
that's really interesting that you say that, Mike. Because I seem to remember on the podcast where we had Sam Black as a guest, you were yelling at me that you could never, ever, ever imagine this deck losing to Dreadnought, and then all of a sudden,
when I played Dreadnought, I defeated Andy Levine many times, who's one of the best players in our community.
Yeah, okay.
And Andy's just like, I think.
So what happened there? Are you not good at predicting if a deck can beat another deck, or is it a wrong conclusion?
I actually think if it's like gun to my head, who do I pick? I would actually pick Gush Tithe. I just like had the he just had like the
interesting
clunky mana, and I just kept turn 2ing him with double free spell backup or something. And he was like, I've got it, and I'm like, daze you, and I'm like, now I have a foil, because that's what 12-12 does.
Well, it doesn't sound to me like this deck never loses to 12-12. It sounds like it could lose to 12-12 a lot.
I don't think we played a lot of sideboard games. I don't recall, but I think we played mostly game ones. But
all right, you just go back to that episode. You go back to that episode, listen to how you felt about the matchup.
Agreeing with Sam that I think that his deck has the edge on average, especially in sideboard games. I think Andy and I were playing mostly game ones.
All right, I'm high on Stasis, but Stasis.
You're high on Stasis?
Yeah, Stasis is a blue deck. All blue decks are good. Like every blue deck is good. Like that's like Psychotog could be worse, but it's not because it's a blue deck.
Stasis below Standstill.
I mean, that's fine. I would just rate Standstill higher. Like I'd be willing to put Standstill ahead of Stasis, but we can do that as well. I have to do this the other way.
I mean, it's actually wrong. Stasis is better than Standstill. It's not. The main problem with Standstill is that it is vulnerable to Sabo's Web. If there was no Sabos in the format, Standstill would be.
All right, let's go back to talking about some real decks. Let's talk about Moneyball Black. I can't believe we're an hour into this podcast. We've talked around Moneyball Black 100 times, so we haven't talked about actual Moneyball Black. Do you think this deck is good?
I think I have it A tier after Slide before Gush Tithe.
That is very interesting.
I played the deck a fair amount, and I said I only played Sly at Andy's house. I played some Moneyball Black. I don't think I lost a game. I think the deck is excellent.
So I think that you can sort of distill the deck's outlook on like the percentage of the time Duress or Cabal Therapy cause your opponent to discard a card. Because if you think that Moneyball Black discards your opponent's cards with Duress or Cabal Therapy, say 60 or 70 or 80% of the time, then it's a pretty good deck. And if you think that Moneyball Black on average is going to discard a card with those cards, 55, maybe 60 or less, then I think it's a pretty bad deck. Because like I think that much like a Mulch that hits 0 cards, a Cabal Therapy or a Duress that hits 0 cards, to me personally, as a person who plays Portent instead of Duress or Cabal Therapy, that seems like a catastrophe, right?
I'm
because
very low on Cabal Therapy. Andy was playing. We had talked about a bunch of changes. He didn't make the full changes, but he had put in Funeral Charm, which was a card that we had talked about. I think Cabal Therapy is actually pretty bad in the current versions of Moneyball Black. I think it was okay, and not even as a 4-of in this deck because of Ravenous Rats. But if you're not going to play Ravenous Rats, I think your hit rate with Cabal Therapy is too low. And I think that's a paraphrase of what you just said. And I think that I would frequently side out Duress. The reason that the deck is good is that, I mean, if you played the old version and you had like Cabal Therapy,
some people would say that you just named all the best cards in it.
No,
like black decks used to play like no Cabal Therapy and no Ravenous Rats.
No.
Like that was like part of the innovation of
Funeral
Moneyball.
Charm is like the same as Cabal Therapy a lot of the time. Like when you're talking about like the frequency of card X or card Y hitting, Funeral Charm basically always hits, and it can get the last counterspell that the Dreadnought decks have.
It's a little complicated because Cabal Therapy is just like a 10 or a 0, and Funeral Charm's always a 5, so they average to the same, right?
But contextually, no one would play Cabal Therapy if not for the flashback, right? And there's the problem with Moneyball Black in its current incarnations, not the incarnations from like 6 months ago. In its current incarnations, that the creatures are too good. You don't want to flashback Cabal Therapy.
Okay, so but you were like, you've been the happiest Cabal Therapist like on the planet. You love playing that card. So
yeah, but I always played in decks with Wall of Blossoms or Gamekeeper.
Yeah,
I literally most recently Cabal Therapy'd my way to a league win with Gamekeeper.
Okay,
right?
So like, this is my take on whatever this take is, which is that after you cut 4 Cabal Therapy, 4 Ravenous Rats, Duress is still not very good, and there's not 12 black cards remaining in the entire format for you to put in your deck. Like, you might as well play 28 lands. Like, that's why we have Dark Ritual, right?
The main reason that the deck, well, first of all, you have the whole free win factor off of Ritual Hippie, which is answered, a good 40% of the time anyway. But like you said, you might as well put in all these swamps. I actually am very low on Wasteland now.
Yeah, I hate Wasteland in that deck.
I think Wasteland's pretty bad in this deck.
You're playing Stromgald, Nantuko Shade, and Withered Wretch, and you want to play 14 swamps in your deck.
It's just like not.
I don't think so.
I'm really low on Wasteland. I think Mishra's is fine. But the thing is, like, this is a deck. Andy pointed out to me exactly in these words, and I think he's right. This is a deck that plays to my personal strengths. It's like a good beatdown deck. It's good pressure. You can play opportunistically. You can be clever, and it's got enough card power, and it has good fundamental matchups. But it has the thing that I like the best, which is overwhelming sideboard cards, right? Like, people just don't beat Gloom Dystopia.
Yeah, you actually should play Michael J, because you love sideboard cards, and Moneyball Black is a sideboard deck.
It's just sideboard cards.
It has sideboard cards in the main deck. Like, that's how much of a sideboard card deck
it is. It has free wins and sideboard cards. And so the reason I wanted to play Funeral Charm, twofold. One, I was playing against standard Moneyball Black. I'm like, all right, I want to get a good session in. I played 2 games with red, 1 on the play, 1 on the draw. I did not feel a need to play a third game. The Moneyball Black could not contend with the most mediocre red draws. But if you add Funeral Charm, you can now interact.
Yeah, it gets a lot
on
more
turn 1. You just don't lose to a Jackal Pup automatically.
And the not Moneyball Black decks used to beat red using the rack, and now it can only use 2 copies of Curse Scroll. So we can go to 4 Curse Scroll.
Well, the problem is like they'll win the Curse Scroll race typically.
Yeah, but you can draw it and they can't sometimes.
Yeah,
like, it's just like, okay, so both decks play 2 or 3 Curse Scrolls. One might draw it before the other, and that's all that matters.
So, but the thing is, in the mirror match, you can also take out their Nantuko or Knight of Stromgald, which is actually pretty meaningful.
Yeah.
So I like it. I think that I don't know.
Okay, so this is tough. I don't want to go too far into this, because at this point we're just kind of being like, okay, well, take the deck list that people are playing and make it better, right? And that's like kind of uncharted territory. It's like really hard. I mean, this is like the problem, because like, these decks in our A tier are definitely not like real A tier decks, like from a broad population standpoint, because the broad population is playing 4 rats, 4 therapy, 4 duress, and like the cutting edge of Moneyball is just kind of like an experimental version, which we just don't know how good it is because we just like.
But the problem is Cabal Therapy rats hit triple hit is pretty good, and that's for the most part just a 3 for 3, right? Or maybe I guess 3 for 2, but like. That's not that good when one of the bodies is just a 1/1.
Why aren't you playing Moneyball Black?
I actually don't own a lot of the cards. I don't apparently own no Knight of Stromgald, but I could probably bum it, right? Like
yeah, I have one Knight of Stromgald stamped from one of like last year's LobsterCon.
So I mean, it's a back. Like if I said
you can just change it for an Ilshin Shade.
If I'm going to play Burn at League tonight. I said if I don't win with League tonight, I won't play Burn. I'll probably play Blue.
Oh, that's not... But can I hold you to that?
Yeah, if I don't win, I won't play Burn.
All right.
If I can't win 3 rounds, how am I supposed to win 9 rounds?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Okay,
all right.
But then, and I'm an excellent Dreadnought player.
Final take on Mono Black. Like Mono Black is kind of on everybody's minds. Like, what do you think is an accurate depiction of like what's going to happen with this deck? Do you think people are going to win with it more than expectation or lose with it?
I think it's going to depend on the overlaps. So last time I played in LobsterCon, which was 2 years ago, right? I played Burn. I beat in over 2 days, right? I played it in the Constellation tournament that you won. I beat every Dreadnought player I played in both tournaments. That's not supposed to happen on the win expectation, but it's like one of the reasons I'm like, I'm me. I beat all the Dreadnought players. And part of that is like you have these tourists who are contributing to a high Dreadnought population who just aren't that good, right? Like, like from their side of the table, I would have won. If Moneyball is the Dreadnought of this year, which is like it attracts an overabundance of players and they're just not that good at it, then it's going to not overperform. If Moneyball is the deck that players like Rich Shea are now going to be playing, it's going to perform at expectation or maybe better.
Do you think Rich would play better? Do you think Rich would get a better result on 100 LobsterCons with Enchantress or Moneyball Black?
In 2026, Moneyball Black.
Okay, that's a wild take. I would still put Rich on Enchantress. I would put Rich on Dreadnought ahead of Moneyball Black.
I've watched Rich play both Enchantress and Dreadnought recently on camera. I mean, he can obviously play anything. But, I listened to him on a podcast recently. He's just like, look, the deck is just overperforming in the hands of amateurs, right? I guess we're all amateurs, right? But like, just somebody who hasn't played Magic in however long. I gave him Moneyball Black and he finished second in the tournament, right? Like, and it was a 6-round Swiss tournament.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's like a lot of noise because like exactly what you said.
That's Rich's story. That's what Rich is saying. Right?
Yeah, but my conclusion from that wouldn't be the same because I would just be like exactly what you said. We're all amateurs, right? Because like LobsterCon is the only tournament that you play where like by the time after round 5, you're finally playing a real tournament, right? After round 5, you're playing the hardest pre-modern tournament that you will play in your entire life.
Half your opponents are drunk
in the first 5 rounds. Most of them, like all the. Well, first of all, some of them are Jens Jaeger drunks or Justin Provençal high, which means that they're still better than your randos on your weeklies, right? But the other half of them are going to be people like me who are going to wait until they're knocked out of the tournament to drink, and you're going to have to contend with them. And like I do think that changes the dynamic, and like that's what makes pre-modern at least interesting, which is just that we don't play LobsterCon every weekend. Like, so the fact that we play one weekend of 1 year is like really just like, oh, what's going to happen? Like, what deck is only a deck that beats the losers metagame, and what deck actually beats the losers metagame and the winners metagame? Because again, you're playing 2 tournaments. LobsterCon is like a qualifier for like a difficult pre-modern tournament. You have to like beat this like soft pre-modern tournament, which you still get randoed in the soft pre-modern tournament, but you get through that and you're like, okay, now I have to play against Rich Shea 5 times.
You think Rich Shea is? I guess I have to pick Enchantress because I have Enchantress arguably as top of the S tier, and I don't have Moneyball Black as top of the S tier. So if you pair arguably top of the S tier with arguably the best player, his average performance has to be better than
I mean at this
arguably the best player with an A tier deck.
Yeah, at this point we're sort of inconsistently applying our rubrics, but if you're taking
no, you're right. It has to be Enchantress because I would argue Enchantress is even better than Dreadnought, and like we're both really good. It just
I think like this is like basically the problem, which is just that like there will be like 3 or 4 guys who are like incredible Dreadnought players, and I think that they're going to do very well. I don't know if there are 3 or 4 guys who are going to be incredible Enchantress players, in addition to like the maybe like they're not senseis, but they're like they're not Jedi masters, but they're pretty strong apprentices, right? Like 1212 has like a bunch of Jedi masters and a bunch of freaking Anakin Skywalkers like waiting in the wings as well, because like people grind the deck.
I played in a Grand Prix with Burn once, and then I played the whole day. I lost the last game of the last round. It was like 11 p.m. for the day 2 cutoff. My opponent played first turn Iona, and again it was game 3, right? And I'm like, all right, now I don't make day 2, and I played like for 11 hours or whatever. And I talked to John about it afterwards, and I'm like, I won literally every winnable game that day, right? Like if a game was winnable, I won it, right? I beat Countertop, like on the battlefield. And he says, well, the problem is there are just, and I think this is like maybe goes back to our conversations about agency in the past. He's just like, there's just some games that you can't win. And Burn is punishing on the games that you can't win. And I think like in a way that Enchantress isn't, like, because Enchantress just finds a way because it has tools, it has more card advantage. Just I think maybe not fewer of those games, but they don't reveal themselves in the same way. And
I mean, yeah, it's like it's kind of hard to go down, because I do think that you're like pretty like I think that there's a range of Enchantress draws where you're just like, okay, I'm going to keep the Miri's Guile hand, and then you're like, cool, I'm going to go for Presence or Gothian.
Oh, and then you just don't get there,
yeah, your opponent's just like counterspell, and then you're like, cool, now I'm going to keep shuffling and whatever with my Miri's Guile. But like in that time, your opponent's just being like, cool, Portent, Sleight of Hand, Gush, AK, and then by the time you find your next Enchantress, they're just like, okay, I'll Ray of Revelation that. And just like, oh god, I got to go into the well.
Who hasn't had the game? Like I had a game against Derek once where I'm like, Miri's Guile, Enchantress, he's like Edict. I'm like Enchantress's Presence, he's like Vindicate. And then I'm like, all right, I'm out, right? Like I kept Anchor into draw, and then he's just like, Nantuko, dress your sword supply shares. I'm like, yeah, I'm dead in 2 swings.
Yeah, it puts you in kind of like a weird spot, because you're basically like, okay, like this deck that this is why it's kind of, that's why I kind of want to reintroduce this, like, oh, how consistent is the deck, how resilient is the deck, because consistency and resiliency play into each other, right? If you're resilient, you'll be consistent because you're going to do your thing more because of how resilient it is. If you're not resilient, then you'll get stopped easily, and you're going to be inconsistent.
So I lost at the backyard brawl, whatever, backroom brawl. I won my first 5 games. I'm in round 3, up a game against Eli on Goblins with Enchantress. You just had better draws with manages, like I think Wasteland or whatever with Goblins, and like they're both games where like if I didn't die that turn, right, I was gonna put the clamps on, right, but like I died that turn.
And that's the thing is, like, think about all the things that need to happen for Enchantress to like sort of like win this matchup, which is maybe hard, maybe soft, depending on who you ask. He's like, you need to get Enchantress, then you need to get Parallax Wave, then you need to get Opalescence.
My point about the Moneyball is that those games, Moneyball just doesn't get wastelanded in that spot, right? And in fact, Rituals out Engineered Plague instead of like needing another turn to get the second white for Parallax Wave, and like.
Just compare it to Dreadnought. Dreadnought will just put Dreadnought on the table, and your opponent doesn't get to board in extra Tranquil Domain. So they're just leaning on Blue Blast and Naturalize, and those are cards that they have to hold up. Like the other thing that's super interesting about that comparison is just like against Enchantress, Goblins just cast all its spells and then cast all its answers afterwards. Against Dreadnought, Goblins can't cast its spells because it has to sit there holding Red Blast Naturalize.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, obviously, these are all powerful decks that do something good. I'm just saying, like, Moneyball just doesn't get angled by inferior decks and inferior players in the same way that multicolor decks like Replenish and Enchantress do. And I think that is a huge difference.
Look, I think that being the case, it's still pretty telling that, generally speaking, the last time we saw somebody who was a great Magic player win a tournament like LobsterCon with mid-range was Brian Selden playing Blue-White Landstill, right? Like, Premodern's been an unfair format where, like...
Completely different universe, like...
Right, but that's my point. Is just that
taxes.
I think that the world we live in is just that like unfair is better than fair, and I think that Moneyball Black is being held down by being fair. Like all the things that you get,
fair or unfair?
It's fair. I think Moneyball Black, like the thing is, if you look at this tier list, I would just put all the unfair decks in S tier. Like I would have Replenish like in S tier.
I have Replenish in S tier
because it's an unfair deck. Like
where do you
put
like Tinkerfling?
Well, Tinkerfling's an unfair deck, but it's not very consistent. So I would probably put it in B tier.
You think? Okay, Tinkerfling is better than Ponza Oath.
I mean, I know that you are really, really high on Tinkerfling, but like the thing is, nobody good plays it, and like, you know, like what are we supposed to do with that?
If you want to play Oaths, you can. It also just gobbles people up with Sabo's webs.
Yeah, but
like it is. I think that deck is very good.
You don't play the deck, and people who like the deck barely even play the deck. Like, that's the thing. It's just like there's combo players out there, and they're all playing HFEB, which, by the way, I would put in A tier.
I think HFEB is slightly better than Elves, which is about where you have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Quick words on HFEB. It's a good combo deck.
It's fine.
It loses to stuff. It beats stuff.
It loses to its own mana base.
I mean, if your opponent has Pipes of Progress, but I think the mana base is fine. I've actually come to gain a large amount of respect to City of Brass, Gemstone Mine, Reflecting Pool mana bases because I've never failed to cast my spells when I have those cards.
I think HFEB is a fine deck. It's fine.
I will say that it has proven to be a better deck than I thought it was after it got fixed on Magic Online, where like people could play it all of a sudden. And I was like, oh, once people play it more often, they'll probably just like, you know, have an understanding of the deck enough to beat it. And I think that the HFEB Cabal has proved relatively resilient in the face of things. But I also think that like, you know, again, if you're going to sit there and you're going to like study a deck until you're like an absolute monster at it, it's a good argument to do it with decks that are in S tier rather than
to me, losing with Dreadnought against HFEB gave me a lot of respect for the deck. And you explained it perfectly. Just like, who would you rather have, Elves or HFEB? And I'm like, Elves. And you're like, why?
yeah.
And I'm like, well, I like Elves. It's like, if you like Elves, you have to like HFEB. It's better than Elves in the same spot. And
I actually do generally agree. The only thing is HFEB is,
of course, you agree. It's your idea.
But the only thing is HFEB is not as good against Terrageddon. We should talk about Terrageddon.
Okay,
what's going on with
Terrageddon? I'm super low on Terrageddon.
You're super low? You were like, you posted in the Discord, like, we have to talk about Terrageddon being just the best deck at LobsterCon. How are you low on Terrageddon?
I played it in League a week or two ago. I went 1-1-1. I lost to Andy playing Moneyball Black. We played a bunch of additional games, of which I won some of them, but he beat me 2-0 on Moneyball Black. He just got on the outliers. And then Lan made fun of me because he's just like, Andy just 2-0'd you, and now you're going to lecture him on how you have a dominating matchup, which I did, of course. But he just always had a dystopia, like in the sideboarded games, right? Like, I'm like, anything clever I was going to do, he just let me do, and then he cast a dystopia. And, I mean, I guess that's just points in the Moneyball Black bin. But I'm down on Elves, so I feel like if Elves is less good, then, you know, who cares?
You're about to say, well, that makes Terrageddon more attractive, but actually you don't want to play Terrageddon.
Just who cares? But the bigger thing is, like, I told myself I would not play a deck that was going to barf all over itself to Sabo's web. Like, the closest I would come would be like a rock variant.
You could play Terrageddon, and you just don't have to play Rishidan Port.
I went 1-1-1, and like, which isn't I lost to Moneyball Black, and I probably would have won my draw, but I went to time. So my game plan was, I'm gonna deck my opponent with Abundance. With Abundance, Gaia's Blessing, and Tormod's Crypt. I conceded early because I'm like, all right, I'm behind. He was playing Enchantress, and I'm like, I'm behind. I think I'm probably gonna lose, right? But like, if I find out, it's going to take 40 minutes, so I'm just going to try to win the sideboarded games. And he's a card drawing deck with no counter spells. He couldn't really beat Gaia's Blessing, Tormod's Crypt, Abundance, right? Like, and I got game 2 that way, and we didn't have enough time for game 3 because the deck isn't fast, or at least it's not fast when you're trying to win with Tormod's Crypt, Guy's Blessing
I mean,
Abundance.
Terragon's like probably the deck that SWB is going to take, unless I don't know.
No
SWB
way.
also joins the Moneyball Black train, in which case you can borrow his black cards, I'm sure.
So
But yeah, I don't know. I've always been low on this deck. I'm still low on this deck. I think that it's a deck that plays 4 Mox Diamond, so it can't be good. But I also think that you can be a Terragon guy and you can be like, I kind of got game against Dreadnought. I kind of got game against Enchantress. I kind of got game against Replenish. I kind of got game against Goblins, I guess. You used to be like, oh my god, Goblins can never beat Terrageddon, which I think is an insane thing to say, but we won't litigate that right now. So yeah, I think it's a perfectly fine mid-range.
A weird spot. I played a lot with Simon. So Simon's in first place in league. He only plays Terrageddon. I played him with Burn at Andy's house for however long. I don't remember who was winning game one. Maybe we're probably like traded games. I won literally every sideboarded game. Like he could not win a sideboarded game. And I didn't even have anything special.
Okay. The Terrageddon is Bad podcast will definitely be Spike Colony. You can go ahead and listen to some other podcast or content creator if you want the Terrageddon is good take. I will say you should try playing 0 Mox Diamond in Terrageddon. It's extremely fun. It might actually be good, but whatever. I mean, if you're not open to that.
This is a deck where Mox. What is the point of Weathered Wayfarer if you're not going to play Mox Diamond?
No. The question is, what is the point of Mox Diamond if the deck doesn't even change if you cut Mox Diamond of it? That's the question you should be asking. Because Weathered Wayfarer is actually still good. Like you do all the things.
Well, SWB had that version with no Weathered Wayfarer that had Wall of Blossoms instead, which I wanted to try because it's good against Moneyball.
Yeah. Well, regardless,
but I never had a chance.
I think you should tune into youtube.com/LannyMTG and check out what Terrageddon is capable of without Mox Diamond. I think it will surprise you. I think that it's plausibly the same deck or a better deck without Mox Diamond. And I think that, you don't have to do.
Listen to the people who think Terrageddon is good. For example, D-Tao, right? Who's had multiple good finishes with Terrageddon over time. His reasons for playing Terrageddon are all cards that I don't have in my deck. So I just
when you ask Andy, he's just like, you just Rishon import them. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ!
I have like one Rishon import, right?
You're spending 2 mana to tap down 1 mana like every single turn for the rest of the game, so that you can like sometimes resolve Armageddon if your opponent doesn't have like. It's kind of like you have to have so many lands in play to Rishon import somebody. You're getting most of your lands. You're like, okay, whatever.
Details just like, well, you beat up on Dreadnought because you have Meddling Mage in your main deck, and I'm like, man, these are just all crazy people doing crazy things.
Well, it's also just like good luck drawing the Meddling Mage every single time that you need it against Dreadnought. Like it might not help you, but anyways, we're low on Terrageddon. I actually, again, Moxless Terrageddon, I think people should brew with it. I think it more than me should be brewing with it. Like I think you can make the deck work. I was relatively impressed, but if I'm the only person who's going to do that, then I think the deck won't improve. And I do think that I don't know what people are saying. They're like, people complain about every matchup with Hairball. They're like, oh, what do you do against Moneyball Black? What do you do against, this, and this? I'm just kind of like, it can't be good. But then again, people do the same thing with Grow. So I do think that like the Copium is coursing through every Faradex veins right now, and that includes Terrageddon. We can just throw Madness away. Madness is kind of interesting and cool.
Madness is better than Green White Mad Dogs. It's better. Red Green Zoo is the pits. It's worse than Reanimator.
All right. Iggy Pop, controversial take. Iggy Pop is awesome. Iggy Pop is so good and it's so cool. It's the only stack combo deck in the format. And I think that's worth something.
What about Mono Blue? Where your beloved Mono Blue you played in the PSS?
I think that, well, first of all, Mono Blue is not quite a stack combo deck because it has to play the rocks. It has to play Helm of Awakening and Sapphire Medallion. And Iggy Pop is like the only deck that can be like, pass the turn, like draw, pass the turn, play cantrip, draw, pass the turn, play cantrip. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to like go for something. And you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to set up the kill and kill you on my turn. GG. So like it's the only deck that can do that. And I have a lot of respect for that, even though I don't play the deck.
I watched a Doomwake video. When are you getting Doomwake on our podcast? Watched a Doomwake video and he had Plague Bearer in his Moneyball Black deck. So I said, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look in my Unsorted Rares box, see if I have a Plague Bearer in my Unsorted Rares box. I did have a Plague Bearer. And I also found 3 Ill-Gotten Gains in the Unsorted Rares box.
Oh, heck yeah.
And I also found like 7 Body Snatchers. And I pulled them out. I don't think Body Snatcher is played in Premodern, but it is definitely played in other formats, right?
I have no idea.
Anyway, I found like 7 body snatchers, but I was like, I would rather these body snatchers were more plague bearers. Plague bearer is so good; it kills the heck out of Call of the Herd.
Yeah, but now look at this. Look at the spread on Call of the Herd. Sideboard of Ponza Oath and Terrageddon is Radio Silence. I guess that's why Terrageddon is bad, right? Because of Plague Bearer. I don't know. I mean, there's like one copy on the
here's
sideboard.
the thing: like Moneyball Black is like, I don't think it is like 100% matchup with Terrageddon or anything, but it's just so effortlessly just plays cards that just like makes Terrageddon's cards look bad. Just like, oh, I have Withered Wretch. This is a bear. Oh, except for it's great against your entire offense. Right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I guess like a good case for Moneyball Black is that it's kind of like fine against the other fair decks, depending on the draws, but like it looks pretty good against unfair decks. Like it looks great against
Dreadnought.
Looks great against Dreadnought. I don't know. It's plausible against Enchantress. I'm still skeptical because like you have to line it up. But if you do, like you can close the door. Close the door pretty quickly. So there's stuff going for it.
They have the tools, man. Right? Like Diabolic.
Yeah, but you have to line it up. You have to line it up. It's just like so. Like it's like,
dude. I played against many swings. First of all,
okay, Mike. I have a question. Mike, I have a question for you. What do you think about the Moneyball Black versus Grow matchup?
Interesting. I don't know. I think that's just like can go either way. That's what I would guess.
That's actually really funny because you're the only person who's ever said that. Everybody thinks Grow is horrible against Moneyball Black. What do you think my record against Mono Black decks was?
Probably pretty good.
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6-1. Now, granted, there's a bunch of random stuff in there because everybody builds Moneyball Black differently, and like I shared some of these. Like I have one game on video, right? And Andy was just like, oh, well, I wouldn't have duressed you there. And that makes a huge difference. And so granted, you do have to count out some of this noise. But the thing that I wanted to point out was that before we started recording this podcast, I was in a match against Moneyball Black. And in game 1, they mulled to 5 and they lost. In game 2, they went Swamp, Dark Ritual, Phyrexian Arena, Duress, Cabal Therapy, get 3 cards because I had Gush, Plow. And they still almost lost that game. And then in game 3, I won. And so, like, a lot of times you're just like, wow, like, you've got these good cards and you can kind of line it up. And granted, like, maybe Duress Cabal Therapy, like, Ritual, Phyrexian Arena, Duress Cabal Therapy is better against Dreadnought than it is against Grow. But I do think that it's just, like, the internal inconsistency of the deck is just, like, your Duress has to connect. Like, if you Duress and you're like, oh, great, no Survival of the Fittest, and your opponent goes like, oh, draw for the turn, Survival of the Fittest, you actually just lose that game. And it's just like,
so the reason that I think go either way is just like I can imagine initiative draws on both sides, right, that are unanswered, and then but the thing is like how a lot of games develop is gonna be contingent on both decks having non-redundant threat suites, right? Like Meddling Mage and Kyrian Ranger and Psychotog all do different things from each other, right? It's not like when you're playing against Burn, like all the cards are the same, right? So it's easy to conceptualize how a matchup's gonna line up, or like even Goblins, like they're all kind of the same.
Yeah, you can pretty easily just be like, oh, it just depends on the player, right? Because if the player like is great at Cabal Therapy or is great at Meddling Mage or tactically, like, because you can't like look at the decks and be like, oh, this card beats this card. But I actually do think people get caught up in that because they're like, oh, Grotog loses to decks with removal, and I'm just like, that's not true.
So I think like there's like all these games that are just like, okay, I drew Nantuko Shade, and it just outclasses everything in your deck except for you might have Swords of Plowshares. And if you cast Armageddon with you don't play Mox anymore. But like if you cast Armageddon, like my Nantuko Shade is now worse than every creature in your deck, right? But I could draw Knight of Stromgald, and if you only draw Meddling Mages and Swords of Plowshares, it's the best. But if you draw Psychotogs and Kyrians, like it's pretty mid, like it's just like the cards
I'm not gonna spoil the sauce. I'm not gonna spoil the sauce because but I'll just say that none of these fail cases have ever happened to me in the matchup, and there's a reason for that. But I obviously can't spoil the sauce. I will say I did message Andy. I was like, oh, I finally lost to Moneyball Black. They drew 6 removal, or they drew like 4 removal spells and like some discard spells in their top, like whatever. I'm like, okay, so like I lost to Moneyball Black. It happened, but up until that point, I was just like, I don't think it's
you.
Look. Go pull up my Grotog deck and count all the white cards and then report back. We'll see.
Well, I know, but the problem is how strategic are the white cards, right? Like, if if you have
Mike,
Gloom in
this
play,
is all that I have to say. Is like sometimes my deck sees 4 mana anyways, and you just have to count the cards. Like especially in this matchup, like
All right.
if you're gonna try to go
See,
Ritual
whereas I
Gloom,
think Dystopia is great against you.
I think that Dystopia is equivalent to Snuff Out against me.
I don't know. It just takes out 3 cards sometimes.
It never takes out 3 cards. Okay, I'm not giving away the sauce. If you want to board if you want to board in Dystopia and Gloom against my Grotog deck, you are very welcome to. You can do all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it's just funny because like Grotog, like people in Grotog are like, what do we do about Moneyball Black? We have to put compost in our sideboard. And I'm just like, I don't lose to Moneyball Black. I'm not going to put compost in my sideboard. I'm not going to put compost in any sideboard. If I'm putting compost in my sideboard, I'm just not playing that deck because like, why am I putting compost in my sideboard when I could be putting sideboard cards in my sideboard? Anyways, Black-White Control is like the absolute worst deck that has ever been played in Premodern and will continue to be played.
It is not the absolute worst deck. It's about as good as the Rock.
No, it's so bad. It's worse than the Rock. It's worse than the Rock, which is crazy.
I mean, it is possible that the Rock is rated too high on this tier list.
I mean, I look.
No, it's rated at about 50% win rate, right?
Like, wait, when I pulled this up, weren't you gonna put it in A tier? I put Rock out, and you were like A tier, and now you're just like, well, either white black goes up or the Rock goes down.
Okay,
Which one do you think is more likely?
Let's see where S tier, 12/12 Enchantress and Replenish. I would agree with those. I think Sly's better than Grow. I think Sly, Grow, Moneyball are like pretty reasonable where they are.
Yeah, whatever. We'll just just say these are close.
Sam Black Gush Tide is probably rated too high. Ponza Oath I think is probably rated too high. But like not like neither of them is like egregious. Goblins HFEB. I think Iggy Pop is rated way too high, but I don't know where I'd put it. I just would not put it in the same tier.
This is like a vibe thing. I just think Iggy Pop has the sauce. Like I think this deck has the juice. I'm like super impressed by it. I could be wrong, but I'm super impressed.
So like, I mean, just look at how Elves must have fallen for me and you to have Elves / Cradle Control so far down when we were both so high on Elves before.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my only point about that deck is like, you know, especially the Cradle Control side of it is just like, I do think that the unfair side of Elves is not necessary to beat other fair decks. And I don't think that the unfair side of Elves is unfair enough to beat unfair decks. So Cradle Control to me feels like a great mid-range deck, but it's like a sea of mid-range decks that like kind of have a little bit more going on.
I love the cleverness availability of Elves, right? Like, I love, you know, Sky Shroud Poachers and Deranged Hermits.
God, Sky Shroud Poacher is so good. I just watched Fran get poached so hard on video against Moneyball Black. They're like, oh, finally we're in the clear, and they're just like, how about Sky Shroud Poacher? Got something for that, Moneyball Black? And it's like, nope, I'm dead.
That costs 4.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing is like combined with Goblin Bombardment, right? Like it's like all those cards harmonize so well with each other. The problem with that strategy is it's just so angleable, right? Like, first of all, if it doesn't have Survival of the Fittest, it's such a worse deck, right? It's not that it can't win; it's just worse.
Oh, that's weird. I think that Cradle Control is a much better deck without Survival than Combo Elves, and I think Combo Elves is a much better deck with Survival.
No, I mean like, if you take either deck and they didn't draw Survival that game, I'm
saying Cradle Control is better than Combo Elves
I agree.
Without Survival.
Yeah, like it has like the whole Goblin.
Yeah, that's the problem with Combo Elves is just that you can make like 100 green mana. You're just like, nice, I can untap my Priest of Titania. And you're like, where am I going to put this mana?
And now what, right?
Yeah.
You know, you just cast a Keza that you drew.
Well, you can't cast Keza because that's a Cradle Control card and it's not a Combo Elves card.
Maybe. So I mean, neither one of them is doing anything with the anger that they drew, right? Like, so Psychotog, I think it's fine. Tinkerfling, I feel like, first of all, I think Tinkerfling is a better deck and a better combo deck than Iggy Pop, and it's also less exploitable.
I mean, yeah, I guess if you
Iggy
make
Pop
the argument that
anyone can exploit it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just because you're like really high on Tormod's Crypt versus being really low on Engineered Plague, Cursed Totem, Null Rod, and counter spells.
No, I'm not low on those cards. It's just like, can Tinkerfling win if, Engineered Plague is in play, right? Engineered Plague is a card that is commonly played in a lot of decks that I like, including Psychotog, including Moneyball Black, including the Rock. But the problem is you could just, Rushing River it and then kill them.
Yeah, so Iggy Pop plays Chain of Vapor. Like, it plays all of the same anti-hate cards, and the only hate cards that are really good against it are Gaia's Blessing and Tormod's Crypt.
Well, I feel like...
And then counterspells are equally good against both decks. So I think Iggy Pop is a more resilient deck because it's better against permanent-based
Iggy Pop is
hate.
worse against decks with pressure, and Tinkerfling is worse against decks with control elements. Decks with pressure are better than decks with
I don't think
control
that
elements.
Iggy Pop is really fast. Like it's like it's a very consistent turn 3 or turn 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just as fast as a pressure deck in pre-modern. Like, Iggy Pop's not going to stop Burn from killing them on turn 4 on a Goldfish.
Yeah, well, if it's against Burn specifically, it tends to win on turn 3. Like, Iggy Pop's really good at winning on turn 3. I think Iggy Pop is probably more... I mean, it's complicated because like, basically, Devour does this thing where it's like mulligan until... Like, if you knew, you would mulligan until you could turn 3.
Yeah, you just mulligan until the turn 2.
But like,
turn 1.
But you can't necessarily... You can't not lock that in as easily, whereas Iggy Pop is like more like, oh, I've got a hand with like mana and like either Intuition or Ill-Gotten Gains or Brain Freeze, and you're like, I'm kind of going to put it together.
Do you think they have like similar sideboard tools to escape interaction?
I mean, again, I think that it's very good that Iggy Pop relies mostly on the stack. Like, granted, I will say that I've always liked the angle of Devour to be like Tinker Fling is technically all on the stack. You do have to have an artifact in play, but it's all on the stack. But the fact that your win condition can be Engineered Plagued, can be Curse Totem. Not that Curse Totem is a popular card, but like expands the range.
It also costs like 8 to 9 mana potentially over 2 turns. Like the...
Yeah, you set it up with the Sabo's Web, so it ends up being 7 mana. So, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't think we need to get too into like I wouldn't like argue with the idea that Tinkerfling is a better deck than Iggy Pop, but the way that I see it, Tinkerfling seems to be trending downward. People haven't really been making that deck work, and Iggy Pop has been trending upward. Now, if all the same people were like, "Oh, let's work on Devour really hard," maybe that would change. But right now, Iggy Pop is like exciting. It's changed the way that it's built the deck. It's surprisingly good against hate. It does a lot of like the stack combo stuff really good. And honestly, if I had like a ton of time to be like breaking the format right now, I think that Iggy Pop would be a very interesting deck to try to break the format with.
Globstrong or Shamara, would you play Grow?
I'm playing Grow a Lobster Con. I don't think that's going to be a surprise to anyone.
All right. Well, if I win League tonight, I'm going to play Burn, maybe. But if I don't win League tonight, I will not play Burn. I will promise you.
Let's review the rest. Terrageddon, we both think sucks. The Rock somehow is in B tier, even though it sucks.
It's at the 50% win rate. That's where it is.
Okay, Stasis is a blue deck. Alluren, I think we have. I think you have Alluren quite low, but I don't really think I would have it much higher, so I'm not going to argue about it.
It's like exploitable by all the same things that like Tinkerfling is exploitable by.
Okay,
and
well then we're
just worse than a bunch of other. It's just slower.
Yeah, Alluren is slower than Tinkerfling. I think Alluren is.
Tinkerfling can turn 1U.
It really doesn't. It really can't.
It might not, but it could.
It can't. It literally can't. You need 5 mana, so you can't do it. You would need double Mox Diamond. You would need double Mox Diamond Lotus Petal Ancient Tomb, and then your Mox Diamonds have to discard something. So you need Mox Diamond double Lotus Petal Ancient Tomb Tinker Fling or Altar. It's just not going to happen. So it can turn 2 if you're lucky, but most of the time both decks are fighting to turn 2 or turn 3 or turn 4. But Tinkerfling Mulligan's better, right? Because it's A plus B instead of A plus BC or CD or CF or whatever. Regardless, it's not that important. We don't have to fight over the bottom of the barrel. The various Madness decks are like whatever. Reanimators, whatever. Red Green Zoos, whatever. So anyways, this tier list, the only biased part is like, I think that if you gave proper discounts to Grow, Burn, and Moneyball Black, and maybe HFEB, you could and of course Sam Black, you can plausibly have them lower. Like I could definitely see this A tier completely inverted based on or mostly inverted based on like, you know, your average pilot with your average version of the deck. Because yeah, we're just comparing like I think I'm going to have a superb version of Grow. I feel really good about my deck list. So I'm really high on the deck. Like, a lot is stopping me from putting it in S tier. I'm just like, screw it. This is the best deck in format. But that we'll find out. We'll find out at LobsterCon if that's true. And Mike, of course, Mike and I, of course, will typically just be like, okay, Burn is a lot better than people give it credit for.
It doesn't perform on average. It is a disappointing deck on average. I don't plan to be average.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's also tough because there's just like, if Medvedev's the best Burn player, he doesn't even have like great outcomes. So it's like there's nobody that you can point to. It's just like, this is the Burn god, right? Like the Iggy Pop god is better than the current Burn god because you don't play online.
Well, and the Replenish god is better than everybody, right? Isn't that the case?
Yeah. And the only reason why you would have, Dreadnought over Replenish is just because you're like, okay, well, the Dreadnought demigods are sort of collectively still quite impressive.
Well, and also, like, didn't the Replenish god almost win the Duress Crew tournament also? Like, it just lost in the finals in the Replenish Mirror?
Yeah. But, I think the Replenish god is really good as well. But guess what? The Replenish god likes to play Dreadnought sometimes too, so you never know what's going to happen.
Wow.
That's always how it turns out is, you have Phil Bunch Numbers, and he'll be like, yeah, I'm the Rexer god, except for I play Dreadnought sometimes, and I'm also great at that deck. Goes big surprise.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, I could be the best Burn player, but the best Burn player is like only the 15th best Dreadnought player.
Yeah,
they're like Dreadnought, like 15th in the world of Dreadnought is still pretty good. You know, like,
yeah, I'll take like 50th in the world at Dreadnought.
Is that better than first in the world?
I'm definitely top 50 at Dreadnought in the world, but I'm still gonna go for top 1 at Grow because that's just who I am. I mean, you have to factor in the glory, right? Like, if like the thing is, I have to play Grow because like other people aren't playing Grow, and I'm trying to force them to, but they kind of don't. Like, I don't know why. Because it's actually funny because Grow is just like Dreadnought. Like, any Dreadnought player could pick up Grow and like basically figure it out. But maybe that's the problem, is that people who like Grow like it for the wrong reasons. They like it because it's a fun deck, and like there needs to be like more sickos.
I think that
I think if David Raska played Grow, it would be like, it would be incredible. Like, I think if
Lanny, I think that you're just discounting the free wins. Like, people do well in this format because they get a lot of free wins, and the free wins come in a lot of different packages. Like, one of them is my mana came out and yours didn't, right? When you're playing a one color deck, your mana's going to come out more, right?
Oh, yeah. I understand what you're saying. I have sort of two philosophies of this, right? Okay, so here's my overarching question. So we can't gather a large enough sample to put things in like free win versus paid win bucket, right? Like, we don't know how many free wins Dreadnought has. It feels like it has more than a lot of decks, right? But we can't actually put that in some bucket. And if it were the case that your paid win bucket was like, even if you had no free wins, but your paid win bucket was quite large and larger than the combined free win and paid win bucket of Dreadnought, you would play that deck, right?
Wait, like, say again,
okay, you get 15% free wins, right? And you get 40% paid wins, right? Okay, but what if I told you could just get 60% paid wins?
Yeah, take 60% paid wins.
Okay. So you can look at it like that. On the flip side, you can look at it and be like, oh God, like that game could have gone either way, right? But it actually went in my direction. So 60% of the time you're like, ugh, could have gone either way, but it went in my direction.
So the only argument I'd make is that paid wins are available wins and free wins you get, right? So you're just like, all right, if I get like 55% combined available paid wins and free wins, I might only get the 15% free wins because I didn't take any of the paid wins. So I think like when you're just like, all right, you could have 60% paid wins or 15% free wins and 50% paid wins. Like, the number might be higher if I don't take any paid wins.
And that is my point, which is just that the fact of the matter is that we don't know what are paid wins. And the other fact of the matter is, like, I think it matters to people whether or not your opponent has a say in the paid wins. And this is kind of like the Sam Black methodology, which is just that, like, I don't need free wins. I have enough money to pay for all my wins. If my opponent is also paying for a win, then we'll play a real game of Magic. But like, I'm not going to cash in on any free wins because what's important to me is that nobody gets free wins against me. And I think that this podcast, despite the fact that you're a big free win fan right now for reasons completely unknown, this podcast is a paid win podcast. We like playing matches where, like, you're saying stuff like feeling clever. We've talked about agency. And, like, at the end of the day, like, what's a free win? Like, a free win always comes at a cost. It always comes at a cost. That's why even
but the cost to your soul.
Is
that the cost?
No, it comes at a cost to your win rate. It comes to a cost, like, even though Dreadnought is the undisputed best deck in the format by, many people and 1.5 people in this podcast, you still won't play it because you're like, ugh, somebody's gonna Gerard's verdict me. And it's true.
I don't think I've ever not made top 8 in a Swiss tournament.
But it's true. It feels bad if somebody Gerard's verdict you, and that's the cost of your free win. Your free win comes with free losses.
A Switch match, it was to you.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So my question ends up being like, okay, what if I told you that you can take 60% paid wins, or you can take 15% free wins, 50% paid wins, but 15% free losses. Now, how does it look? If you assume,
I don't want any free losses.
If you assume that 1% of free win comes with 1% of free losses, how many free wins do you want?
All right, so I'm going to leave it at this.
No, I want to hear the number. Answer the question. Answer the question.
No, man.
No, think about it. Answer the question.
That's too much.
Think about the question. If every free win came with a free loss, or you can just tell me, or you can tell me what's the conversion rate on free wins versus free losses. Will you take 20% free wins in exchange for 10% free losses?
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right. What about 20 to 15?
It depends on how many paid wins I have access to, because at some point it depends, because like if the ratio is excellent but the number of free losses is too high, I can't top 8 anymore. Like that's that's the problem.
I mean, it's complicated because our concept of paid wins technically should encompass everything, right? And it just depends on who pays more. But
I'm just saying, like, I do like playing stage 3 with Dreadnought, and I think like people don't really understand that, and like that's my favorite part of Dreadnought to play. So, just cast some Flash of Insights.
It just sounds like you should be playing Dreadnought.
Dude, I don't know, man.
Can you, for one time ever, because I know you've written several articles about this, about how you shouldn't do this, but can you, for one time ever, actually just play the deck to beat?
Yeah. I don't have any Hydroblasts, because I decided I would play all Essence Flares.
Oh, okay, whatever.
They're like slightly worse against.
Okay, don't leak the technology. Keep it.
They're
keep
like
it for when
massive,
you play.
but there's so much edge against Moneyball, right? That's my weak part.
Essence Flare. You're gonna Essence Flare a Withered Wretch. That doesn't sound good.
I'm not Essence playing a Withered Wretch.
What are you Essence Flare? Just a Knight of Stromgold or a Natuko Shade?
So their deck is not. You made this point already, right? Their deck is not fundamentally good, right? It's a combination of like,
but they
wheeling in between the bricks of.
They have like 6 of these guys. How many Essence Flares are you gonna draw? Like they might just not draw these guys, and they might hit you with Mischief Factory.
I drew 3 Essence Flares against Elves in that top 4. Or top 8, and I drew them all, and I'm like, I don't even want these stupid.
Are you gonna Essence Flare Hypnotic Spectre? Because you're gonna have to. You're literally gonna have to.
No, I'm gonna counter Hypnotic Spectre.
No, your opponent's going to go Swamp Ritual Hippie, and you're gonna be like, welp, I guess I have to.
Maybe I should have. So I took Chain out of my deck. I don't know why people play Chain. It seems terrible to me. I think they played Chain before because it was good with.
Yeah. We all know. Yeah.
But like then they just never took it out of their deck.
No, Kaplan plays Boomerang.
I boomerang too. I mean, I boomerang also.
I don't know. 1 mana is still good, but
the problem is when you draw it in the wrong time, they can just bounce your Dreadnought.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
That's the trade-off. You trading 1 mana for the fact that they can sometimes.
I'm gonna take away their ability to bounce my fucking Dreadnought. How about that?
Yeah, I'm gonna take away. I'm gonna gain my ability to Chain of Vapor this hippie on turn 1.
That's
because they might duress the Boomerang. Anyways,
What if I played? Here's my thought. What if I play Seal of Removal in my sideboard instead of Dominate?
Okay, maybe you shouldn't play Dreadnought. decks. You're just trying to figure out, just like on vibes, what you should do with like one of the most technically sound decks that have ever been built in the format. Like no other deck in the format has more people worked on perfecting it. Like on the basis of just like David Raska is just kind of like set the blueprint, right? He was just kind of like, this is all of the things that you can do. And then, this has only been iterated
now,
upon.
like really good players like Rich are playing Peak, so I'm very confused.
No. This is like, listen, I love Rich Shea. Rich, I know you're listening. I love you. I don't agree with everything that Rich Shea chooses to do with his brilliant mind, including, of course, playing Peak in Dreadnought,
or like looking 1 or 2 Peaks now too.
Looking for, he does not. He played Impulse. He doesn't have Peak.
I think I have 2 Impulse in my deck right now. I cut all the sleight of hands.
I think he went to like 4 copies of Impulse. All right, deck pick. 0 Peaks. 3 days, 1 Intuition, 4 Opt, 4 Portent.
Yeah, but he won't play
Reality Ripple, 4 Impulse.
I have AK.
Yeah, you can play AK. AK is in one of the technically sound versions of the deck. Seal of Removal is not. Seal of Removal against Moneyball Black. I mean, maybe. What if you just like Seal Removal of Hypnotic Spectre and they're like, okay, Duress Hypnotic Spectre. And just like go Duress Hypnotic Spectre. Then what do you do?
Man. I'm trying to figure out ways that I can win games that they're supposed to win. Right? And I think that most of them are levered on time. So like the thing is, like, let's say you won the roll and you just combo them off on turn 2 and you have 2 free spells. Like, even if they have their good draw, you beat them.
This is what I think. This is what I think is going to happen. Moneyball Black is going to be 5% of the metagame. After round 1, it's going to be 2.5% of the metagame. After round 2, it's going to be 1.25% of the metagame.
So I'm like I'm 3-0 at this point, and would I rather be Burn at 3-0 going into a bracket full of 12-12s, or I'd rather be 12-12 going to a bracket?
yeah. Right? I think that's a great question. That's a great question.
Right. So I think you might have convinced me. These are the decks that are on my list: Moneyball Black, Burn, Enchantress, and 12-12. I don't know. I thought about playing Replenish. My LobsterCon debut, I top 4'd with Replenish.
I think that if you played Replenish after you finish the day at 5-4, after losing your win and into day 2, you're gonna have a story about some dumb thing that happened to you, because dumb things happen to you when you play Replenish, and dumb things don't happen to you when you play Dreadnought, and that's the case. You can you don't have time to become the Replenish god. So I think
here's the thing. I think like I just have a serenity about playing Burn, where I'm just like, okay, I just accept these losses to Enchantress and
you're like doing it for mental health. Yeah.
And like in exchange, I get to be the cleverest person that I can be and beat all the crap out of those people. But I wonder, could I just transpose that to Dreadnought? Be like, okay, I'm just going to accept that there's going to be some black removal discard games that I don't win, and
which by the way, against Moneyball Black, they might cast turn 1 Duress, and you might reveal your hand, and your hand might be Dreadnought, Vision Charm, Vision Charm, Vision Charm. And they'll take a Vision Charm, and then you'll put a Dreadnought into the battlefield, and they'll be like, welp, my hand doesn't also contain Smother, and they'll lose. Like, this is the thing that's gonna happen to a lot of Moneyball Black players in LobsterCon.
One of them, Andy said to me, is just like, I don't like AK, because I think everybody in New York has gone the Kaplan route, in part because Kaplan is Kaplan. But the other part is because like AK turns on Withered Wretch. But in game 1 testing, if you just draw 2 AKs, you beat Moneyball. Like that's what we've been finding. Like you just draw 2 AKs, you win.
Yeah.
Like, and so I'm like, this seems like I would draw 2 AKs. Like I could impulse or opt into an AK.
You're like, right? I've drawn 2 AKs before. I could do it.
Right. Like I have Flash of Insight in my deck. Right. Like they can't get everything. Like, and then you just like deploy a Dreadnought with 2 free spells.
Well, the other thing is they have to draw Wither Wretch. Wither Wretch has to resolve. Like a lot of things have to happen. They might just Wither Wretch all your AKs, and you might still just win because you drew 1 card, and that's still okay.
Days back in my deck, like, sometimes you just go first turn Portent, and your opponent goes Ritual Hippie, and then you daze them, and then they're like, now what? And then you just cast a Dreadnought.
Yeah, that Moneyball Black matchup earlier, they went Ritual Hippie, or actually no, I was on the play. They went Ritual Arena, and I disenchanted the arena, and then they were stuck on one land for the next 4 turns, and I was just like, nice deck. I'm just like,
look, man,
I can see why people like this. Just
I feel like the Serenity. Maybe should I just play Dreadnought tonight instead of Burn?
No, you can play. So I mean, Hero's Arc, right? Like. You have to decide what's more important to you: the extra 5% you're going to get playing Dreadnought, or the fact that if you succeed with Burn, you'll be basically the only person to do it since Aaron Dix in 2022.
And
Since
who took out
then,
Aaron Dix in that top 8?
Yeah.
Who was the hero that defeated the Burn God?
Aaron Dix followed by the old school guy with the vest the following year in 24, but then in 25 we got literal no basic mountains contained outside of Elves decks in the top 8. So you can bring the glory back to the Burn homeland, or you can win LobsterCon with 12.
Top 8 and 24 to a Burn deck.
Yeah, I'm talking. Top 8 is all that matters, man. No, that's what I'm saying. The guy you lost to playing Burn is the one who beat Andy in top 4. So it goes Dix, then I forgot his name, old school guy. He's limited resources on Discord. You should make your name on Discord so I can remember to shout you out. And then Blank, and then you can bring Burn back to pay dirt for the next year. I think Grotog has never top 8'd LobsterCon, so I have to do it. Like, it's going to happen. I have to manifest it. This is how to win a PTQ 100%. But I would be happy to beat you playing Burn in the finals, although realistically probably in the quarterfinals. You might make the finals if you play Dreadnought. So that's my take.
Okay, well, I will play.
I think play Burn tonight. If you 3-0, you have to do it story arc, and then if you don't 3-0, you have to play Dreadnought or Enchantress.
To not play Burn. I mean, I the only thing holding me back from playing Enchantress is that my second Solitary Confinement and my sideboard is New Border. And like my Enchantress deck is freaking gorgeous.
Well, I'm sure somebody can help you out with that, but I will tell you that if you switch from Burn to Moneyball Black, you will be more disappointed than if you play Burn. Because losing with Moneyball Black does not feel good. Like, losing with Moneyball Black is the worst. You're just like, ugh, guess I got nothing going on. Both of us have no cards. What do I draw this turn? Swamp? Dang. Like, what do I draw this turn? Duress? Dang.
I played 2 games on Tuesday, Burn against Moneyball, and I did not feel the need to play a 3rd game.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm like, I won with the boringest. I have nothing. I kept like Mog Fanatic, Jackal Pup, Curse Scroll, 4 lands, and I won.
Yeah, I actually think that you kind of hit the nail on the head when you're like, well, Withered Wretch can get an accumulated knowledge. It's not like, oh, I can answer accumulated knowledge with Call the Herd with Withered Wretch. It's just that if I don't have Withered Wretch for those cards, I'm in a lot of trouble.
Demolished by accumulated knowledge. And
I have to hold up BBB for my Knight of Stromgald for the rest of the game against these elephant tokens. And the moment my opponent draws as little as a Fire Ice, it's over and the elephants are coming in. So I don't know. Moneyball Black, I don't know. I get it. Like Ritual, Duress, Cabal Therapy. Maybe you don't play all the rituals. Maybe you don't play all the Ravenous Dash. Maybe you don't play all the Cabal Therapies. Maybe you're just for Knight of Stromgold beatdown deck that like plays a few Duress. Like I have no idea.
Do you have an Unchained deck?
I'm gonna put 4 Force of Will in my Grotog deck, but obviously I plan on playing.
I was wondering, I could physically just make a Necro deck, but then I was just like, this deck sucks if you don't have Necro in play. So like back in the
mulligan to Necro.
You can't really do that.
Just
right?
mulligan to Necro.
So
just mulligan to Necro. We do it with Dreadnought. We can do it with Necro.
I mean, is that better than a Sly deck that has like 4 Wasteland, 4 Strip Mine?
Well, it's not better heads up, but that Sly deck just loses to Dreadnought. So
Strip Mine is pretty good.
Yeah, but what if they have 3 islands? Like, is Strip Mine pretty good against the deck that plays 100 cantrips and can find 3 islands sometimes. Like you're trading your land too. Okay. I can't talk about Unchained. I have to go back. You have to get to League.
I gotta go
it's
to
in
League.
50
Bye.
minutes. Love Spy Colony. Good to have you back, Mike. And thanks everyone for listening. Long live Premodern. Coffee link in the coffee.